Head to Knoxville, don't be late. Baker's Live, it's gonna be great. June 5th and 6th, mark your date at Dollywood, we'll celebrate. Meet Baker and more cool friends. Live show magic that never ends. Come to Dollywood, feel the vibe. With great people there, it's gonna be a ride. Rides, fun, and meet and greet. Baker and pals, the crew's so sweet. Get ready for laughs, cheers, and thrills. Knoxville's the place, it's giving chills. Meet Baker and more cool friends. Live show magic that never ends. Come to Dollywood, feel the vibe. With great people there, it's gonna be a ride. June 5th and 6th, don't miss the fun. Meet Baker and friends, it's second to none. Baker and friends, it's second to none.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whoever you are. What if any you might be? And Valhalla is on time.
More than on time. I was in studio early. I was in here. I was in the studio before Baker was this morning, y'all.
Yeah, that's because I normally have you tiptoeing around 15 minutes late. So this is the longest intro on YouTube. I can say this is by no means the longest intro on YouTube. Go check out Ethan Van Sciver. Sometimes he plays like 15 minutes of intro. I think the Glera has 10-20 minute intros sometimes as well. So
Yellow Flash, he gets some pretty long ones too.
Yeah, it's especially when they have a good one and they just play it after the one they use now.
Yeah.
So yes, and Bev is already starting to shake. So I'm thinking court ends 11:45 today's.
That could be break for lunch.
Yeah, she can't go that long. Come on now.
Call it a wrap.
Wouldn't it be cray-cray if Caffey Daffy was a mole in the other side for the feds? The feds are not stupid enough that they would use her, and Caffey Daffy will...
Well, they have used her, though. She was a fed.
Yeah.
For a long time.
But they don't use her anymore. And I don't know why I just... I just had a song pop into my head. She's a private dancer, a dancer for money. I don't know why that popped into my head, because it has nothing to do with her dancing to the tune she's paid to sing.
Oh, that woman's terrible.
Brandon, she's like 70 years old.
Yeah, she looks like the Colin Farrell penguin character.
And by the way, talking about penguins, penguin books is a thing. See, this is a transition. And because I have learned from the greatest grifter online, Into the Triangle, chapter 1 is now available on my Discord, so you can pre-read it. I do more than Plevin. Plevin just raised his price with $3. I put the first chapter open on Discord so you can read it and get ready for which will be the biggest fiction book next after Kevin's, because this is how we grift these days: merch, isn't the thing. Begging for super chats, talking about my channel is under attack, giving you coffee, none of that is grifting. No, Into the Triangle with the Broken Baker is the #1 Karen Reed crime book announced today in Denmark.
Whole lot of competition, was there?
Hey, that's not how you grift. You grift by
That's
saying,
fair. That's fair. My bad. This is by far the best American crime novel to ever come out of Denmark. Not just today, ever. I got you.
Allegedly.
Bro. I got you. Allegedly.
So I don't know.
Yeah. What do you think?
On the beverage, getting a few more drinks before we get started. Bets on how many moments of snark will we get out of bed today? I think she went home, saw the tapes, and will keep her tone a little less. I'm trying to be funny today.
Yeah, I think she saw Alessi and Breenan were getting a little heated, so she might try to dial it back.
Yeah, and her, I was just making a joke. Yeah, that landed just about as well as if I tried to do a high jump. It won't be high, and it'll be a big slam when the earth catch me. Is anyone sure Caffey Daffy is old? Boxed wine ages women like milk. Have you seen the McAlbert women who are all in their 40s but look like they're in their 70s? Some people were saying, well, it's the Ozempic because Jen lost a lot of weight, but I'm just looking at those white eyes and thinking, maybe it's the off-brand Ozempic you can get out there.
Oh, you mean like Colombian marching powder?
I don't think they have money enough to have a habit of that. I'm thinking lower shelf big pharmaceuticals.
Gotcha. The stuff they find in the truck stops.
I have already congratulated Brandy on her engagement. I did it the day she put the pictures up.
I didn't.
He's a lucky fella.
She hasn't informed me personally yet, so I'm waiting on that. My congratulations are being withheld due to lack of words.
All of Lotto is showing this. Yeah, go tell all the other channels to turn off and people should come watch us over here. Go check out Valhalla's channel. Tell them that.
We've been doing this for years, y'all. For years.
I will quote Valhalla for that in my insert.
I would. Random Tennessee goat farmer.
Jennifer. How did I get Jennifer out of Jennifer? I don't know. It's late. I'm sorry to say that Brandy is engaged. You'll have to settle for Sack of Valhalla. Well, that wouldn't be settling. Let me just say that. That'd be a whole lot of fun.
The cream of the crop.
Rise to the top. That's jump around, isn't it? The cream of the crop. Arrive to the top.
Could be. It's
one of the 90s hippity hop songs.
It's also the Randy Savage promo.
Is it? I can't remember.
Yeah, he's got all those little.
Oh yeah, where he's
from the
cup of coffee.
Oh yeah, rise to the top, brother.
Congratulations, Jessica, and I hope it's a beautiful, beautiful little girl, and she will grow up to be a beautiful, beautiful woman, and she will be smart and successful in her life.
Heck yeah.
Why am I broken? Well, you can actually read that in the first chapter of my new book, Into the Triangle. I've herniated a few discs in my back and had a botched surgery. So that's why I am broken. You just had puppies 2 weeks ago.
You got more new puppies?
Yeah, she gets them all the time. I think she goes around, like Diva goes around looking for strange men on gas stations. Marissa is just
no.
puppies.
Strange men find Diva at gas stations. She doesn't look for them. They just find her. She's like a magnet.
Is Jamie skipping all of these hearings because she's jealous Beverage is meaner than her? No, she's skipping them because of Valhalla. She hates Valhalla.
She will not be on a stream with me anymore. She hasn't been on stream with me in like a year and a half. I don't know what I did. I'm very sorry for whatever I did, Jamie. I'm very sorry.
I got an official notice from the HR department of Baker Media saying, I'm not coming anywhere near that goat herder. And I don't know why.
It really makes me sad because I love Jamie.
Yeah, but Jamie is a person. Sometimes she's nice, sometimes she's not. Most times she's not.
She yells a lot.
What time is you guys at? I'm at 4 o'clock.
I'm at 11 a.m.
I figured out I could set my stream deck up with a world clock. That's smart. I don't know when I'm going to use it, but now I have it.
Good to have.
Yeah, so I can put it in there and think, why are people late? Didn't we say, oh, it's because I can't understand Pacific time.
Oh, it's because you invited Valhalla and he's always late.
Mostly when adults don't adult, that's us. That's why I use the backdoor. Don't need a 70-year-old. Brandon, if you come by next Sunday at noon, Jamie will have biology on a budget. She will talk about the birds and the bees and tell you why a 70-year-old baby's wouldn't be feasible. It's I know some people learned in high school. Brandon will learn in Jamie's. What the hell? In Jamie's biology on a budget.
That's better than her flat Earth on a budget show she tried to do the one time.
Yeah, that didn't.
It didn't go over well.
No, because we had guests from all over the world. That was really annoying.
The top and the bottom.
Don't believe a word they are saying about Jamie. Well, I don't know. It's 12:30 where Salty Dog is in Indonesia. Hey, fun-sized. 12 o'clock where Holly is. That's not how it works. 70-year-olds, let's just say it's not only Americans that doesn't have enough eggs right now. 70-year-olds also have that problem. Well, Gina will be joining as co-host for Jamie on Biology on a Budget.
Nice.
Hey, Paula B. Hey, Jessica Thompson. That's an okay day for JV8.
That's not terrible. That's not terrible.
Hey, it's Helen from Holland.
Crystal Methodists. That's funny.
What did I miss?
It's up a little ways. Stingy said, you mean they are Crystal Methodists? When we were talking about the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, this is a day to have 5% as mean as Jamie. Hey, Katie Bradley.
Hi, Katie.
Yeah, I just got the notification as well.
So we've only been going for like 3 minutes. Hi, Kiska. Do you have blue hair in that picture? Right on.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very blue hair. No, I'm not talking about the baby popping out Benjamin Button style. I'm just talking about candy. But Valhalla, court's late. Let's talk. What do we think? Today will it be as bad as it was the other day?
It's all yes. It's always as bad as it was the last time. Nothing's going to change in Canton. She's still going to not rule on anything in the moment because she has to come up with an excuse to justify her bias. And Brennan's going to lie. And the defense is probably going to get attacked in some way. by either the judge or by Breenan almost immediately. That's my assumption.
I can tell you that they have filed new motions since last time. So today, defendant's memorandum of law in opposition to the Commonwealth's motion in limine to preclude the defendant from raising a third-party culprit has just gone up today. So
they're trying to stop the third-party culprit defense?
Yeah, he did that already the last time, saying that they shouldn't.
Well, yeah, that's why they had to justify it, right? Because he was fighting it.
And I love that Dave went into your chat to say there's less foreigners. Guess who's sitting over there? Hey, Nick.
Oh, that's funny.
Danny T can walk on water today.
Get it, Danny T.
Morning, Your Honor.
I would have gone with terrific.
Good morning, Your Honor. Hank Brennan for the Commonwealth. Good morning, Your Honor. Al Jackson.
Good morning, Mr. Jackson. Good morning, Your Honor. Elizabeth Little, also on behalf of Ms. Reed. Ms. Little.
Morning, Your Honor. Robert Alessi on behalf of Ms. Reed.
Mr. Alessi.
Good morning, Judge. David Dennehy for County.
Good morning, Mr. Dennehy. Good morning, Ms. Reed. All right, so before we begin, Mr. Jackson, when we left the other day when we were talking about Michael Easter, I gave you the opportunity to get some authority.
They're back to the dictaphone. Didn't they change that?
Were you able to do that?
We were.
Do you have something to file?
Yes, it was filed yesterday. I do have a courtesy copy for the clerk.
Okay.
And I can, if the court wishes, we can take that on.
That's
That's going to suffice.
I think so. I'll take a look at it.
It's got everything in it that I would say orally anyway, but if the court has any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you. All right, so thank you. So similarly, regarding the third-party culprit argument the other day, Mr. Yannetti, I see you did file something late yesterday, so I got that. I'm just wondering if either the Commonwealth or the defendant want to be heard on that.
The Commonwealth does.
Okay, so I'll hear you, Mr. Brennan.
Hi, Shantae.
Your Honor asked for a proffer from the defense regarding third-party culprit, alternatively, evidence that would be separate regarding third-party culprit aspect of Bowden. We received some information from the defense that does not distinguish whether their intention is that it applies to third-party culprit or whether it applies to a third-party culprit aspect of Bowden. Those concepts are logically and legally distinct. Regardless, when you look at the proffer by the defense, it is insufficient.
You haven't seen anything from the defense that you didn't. Oh, I love my pause game on his weasel
That's a
face.
good one. He looks, oh my God, he looks like Peter Pettigrew from Harry Potter. The rat.
Peter.
I'll get there.
I don't know.
Inadequate for both third-party culprit and for any third-party culprit aspect of Bowden. Two different analyses, but the evidence is equally feeble for both. Relative to third-party culprit evidence, there are a number of cases that I know Your Honor is aware of that guide the standard of third-party culprit evidence. Not to iterate the law, because it is clear, but there must be relevance, there must be a substantial nexus between the claims of the defense and the third-party culprit theory. They provided us 3 people that they identify as third-party culprits. It's helpful just for a quick synopsis of the history. In this case, prior to the first trial, the defense never identified a third-party culprit. At some point, the defendant herself said that they knew who the third-party culprit was, and recently the position of the defense has shifted that they don't know and don't need to know. Now, the law accommodates specifically identifying somebody. It also accommodates general, but it has to have specificity in the complaint. There has to be a motive, an opportunity, and an intention. There has to be evidence that draws the correlation. It can't be bad character, speculative, or just putting out information that's negative towards a witness so that that can backdoor prior bad acts against a witness and be used for a different purpose. They identified...
If they asked to go to sidebar after this instead of doing it openly to respond to him, that would be interesting. I'm just saying.
It would be. I kind of hope that we get to hear a little more information, but that's just me.
Yeah.
One person, Colin Albert. And in their proffer, what they offer, number one, and it's important to take them separately because it shows how feeble it actually is. The first thing they say about Colin Albert is he had a feud with John O'Keefe in the weeks and months leading up to January 29, 2022. Now, other than maybe on social media or in interviews with the defendant in national broadcast, there's no evidence of that. There was no evidence that's going to be submitted at this trial that shows there was a feud between Colin Albert and John O'Keefe. There is no evidence that there was any hostility between Colin Albert and John.
They had derogatory terms for John O'Keefe.
Derogatory. Never cracker.
Yeah, derogatory. Jamie, where are you to fix my language?
I got you, bro. Don't worry about her. I got you.
We have the pictures of the Canton salute on his fence line, but there was no problems at all. No problem.
They all called him that character from some cartoon that nobody's ever heard of, Never Cracker. There was the incident with leaving a bunch of beer bottles on his porch because he was out of town, and they sat on his porch and drank and took pictures to mock him. There's plenty of evidence.
Yeah. At least enough there to paint a picture that there could be a conflict.
Right?
John O'Keefe. There's no evidence of a motive to kill John O'Keefe by Colin Albert. There is no evidence of any motive, of any...
They don't have to prove motive.
...intention, or of any opportunity whatsoever. In fact, the evidence is that Colin Albert was not even at 34 Fairview at the time John O'Keefe arrived there on January 29, 2022. And so simply saying it is not evidence. And an attorney should not be allowed to confront a witness about an allegation that has no factual basis for them to then have to defend the accusation. The prejudice then seeps to the jury, and the Commonwealth is in the position of having to disprove a claim that had no basis to begin with. The second claim that they make regarding Colin Albert is that he had thrown beer cans in Mr. O'Keefe's bushes and told Mr. O'Keefe to F off in his face. There is no basis for those claims. There is no witness for those claims. There's no information regarding those claims. I understand there may have been a party where there was beer cans, but there was no Colin Albert. So to attribute a situation or an incident to him, the defense would need some good faith proof, actual proof, fact, that this actually happened. And there's no evidence whatsoever that Colin Albert threw beer cans in Mr. O'Keefe's bushes and told him to F off. And the reason there's no proof is because it didn't happen. So again, the defense asks for an invitation to simply cross-examine a witness, allege a prior bad act, and then the witness has to defend their honor and the government has to disprove it. That is not the cloth that third-party culprit is made from. Regarding the suggestion that there was some type of feud or tough relationship, I saw on a video that there were two radio personalities, and I have the clip, who spoke and met with Karen Reed, and during the conversations, at least they relate, that there was some claims about a drug issue, and according, not to the defendant, but according to the interviewers who supposedly interviewed her, they said that the story is completely false. They attribute this to Karen Reed. People are trying to make it more dramatic, like Colin would have a reason to hate John O'Keefe. That never happened, referring to some drug claim. He did not report him for anything.
You're using somebody else's question
so what we know
in an
is
interview as a relevant... How
because
is that even...
because there's been a lot of stories about how Colin was dealing drugs and how John O'Keefe, and that's why I'm always trying not to spread all these rumors, because it gets the water really muddied. And now they want to bring in Rachel Voss, or whatever her name's, question that she probably took off of. I don't know her. She's she might be a great journalist, or she might just go to Turtle Boy and watch 2 streams and say, okay, they're talking about this, let me ask about that. I don't know.
Interesting.
Krusty made that story up. That's why we don't.
It's like false propaganda, right? Go out there and put a wild story in the news so that you can use that to discredit the truth of the actual story.
Could also be something like that. That you get someone to ask about it on the record, and then when you say, "I never heard that," that's proof.
No history of animosity between Colin Albert and John O'Keefe. We know that
There
there
is.
was no animosity between his family and John O'Keefe.
There is.
The
There
only
is.
event known is that at some point, Colin Albert's younger brother ran across John's lawn. Mr. O'Keefe supposedly yelled at him and then bought him candy as an apology. That's it. So we have an alleged third-party culprit, a very strong claim, with no evidence. No motive, no opportunity, not even present at the time that this alleged collision occurred. And so in that absence of evidence, it's not even feasible. Colin Albert should not be brought to the stand, attacked with acts that didn't occur, that otherwise would have no admissibility. Really, it seemed to be a backdoor way to tarnish his reputation and then bind him with other people the defense would like to attack to make a general suggestion that somehow this group of people are bad people. I know at the last trial, there was pictures of Colin Albert's knuckles that were scraped, and inevitably it turns out that picture, and I think the exhibits for introduced at trial, was taken much later. Pictures taken before that point show that Colin Albert's knuckles on the 9th and 11th of February weren't scraped at all. So,
But that was to prove that he was a known fighter. Did he watch the first trial still?
He says he didn't, but I
The
don't
questions weren't related to these pictures showing your knuckles. That was, these pictures show you have a fondness of fighting. And he claims that on Instagram. And then he was like, no, I go to church every Sunday, twice.
because he had scraped knuckles subsequently, because he may have done a video that some youths would maybe do and threaten somebody else, not John O'Keefe, has nothing to do with this case whatsoever. It's an attempt to introduce alleged aggression or prior bad acts, but there's no bind whatsoever. The second person that the defense would like to identify as a third-party culprit is Brian Albert. And this is some of the gross generalizations that you see with Colin Albert. No specificity, but trying to assault his general character by generally suggesting things that may or may not be accurate in just telling part of the story. They claim he didn't have a good reputation among fellow police officers. No evidence. They claim it, and even if it was so, has nothing to do with this case. No one is a bully, so rumor clearly is not admissible in a criminal case. Had a history of sucker punching officers. We don't see any specificity. We don't see any evidence. We don't
why
see
you
any
keep bringing up the Aruma
information.
trip?
We just see a general attempt at a character assassination to portray him as somebody who is either capable or a bully. Nothing relative to John O'Keefe. Nothing. They suggest, and I'm not sure what the basis for this is, that he was drinking heavily that day when he went to a funeral with Mr. Higgins and another person.
Because they drink
It is
heavily
true
every
that he's
day.
at Hillside.
He admitted he was drinking heavily.
That's,
Again, if you have this disability, it's not pointed at you. This is an old derogatory term we used about stupid people. Is he the R word? He testified that they started drinking around 6 o'clock when they had dinner. I think he said did he have 2 whiskeys or 2 beers at dinner? And then they went on from there. When they came home from New York, they were sitting at someplace drinking. Then they went to the waterfall, continued drinking. This
guy is the absolute worst.
Yeah, he's such a liar. And the worst thing is Beverage will rule in favor of him.
Around 9 o'clock and was drinking around 9 o'clock. So all of this information is just general inflammatory accusations about character. They say he was a trained boxer because when he worked out, he boxed and he was engaged in charity events, some dating back to 2003. By that standard, anybody in the
How is that
neighborhood who's
relevant?
any self-defense training, mixed martial arts, or boxer would be on the target list. The fact that he is a police officer and that he is physically fit and that he trained to protect himself doesn't make him a third-party culprit. It is.
Except he didn't say he did that on in the first trial. He said, "Well, I had some training." All of a sudden, he's a trained boxer. Remember that
Definitely not a
show?
boxer.
That show Brian Albert was on. Wasn't that ended rather quickly?
I don't remember the details, but if you guys are unfamiliar, he did like a Boston police documentary type show where he was highlighted as one of the boxing guys on the force. They had a lot of video and clips of him boxing and training and being a fighter, if you will.
Yeah, Boston finest.
This general suggestion of strength and distorted into a hopefully perceived sense of violence that it.
Show the effing video from where the two Bryans are standing in the bar when they are doing the rhino dance up against each other.
The rhino dance.
Oh, yeah. One of John's friends self-deleted while the show was running. That's why it ended.
Has no root at all. No root. They went as far to say he was investigated by BPD for violent conduct, but they don't give any details. If they looked, they could go online, they could investigate potentially. There was no sustained findings that are known to the Commonwealth against Brian Albert in internal affairs.
Wait, are they talking about when he beat up that guy?
And so...
when he allegedly beat up multiple other cops.
Yeah.
But let's open the door to that now, because then they can call that guy as a witness.
Just
the guy who was with them in New York.
Just because they don't put it in this briefing doesn't mean there isn't evidence of said.
He claims there's no
actually. They talked about it in the first trial. They talked about it in the first trial, didn't they?
No, they weren't allowed to bring it because she said you can't bring it up that the guy who was with them in New York, he allegedly punched at some point before, and this isn't the only thing. And maybe he didn't get disciplinary actions. Imagine that a cop in Massachusetts not getting disciplinary problems when he breaks the rules. I am
crazy concept.
Yo-o-ocket.
To make the suggestion he was investigated by BPD for violent conduct, they provide no fact. I'll say, even though it is off base entirely, it has nothing to do with John O'Keefe. They're trying to suggest that he has a propensity for violence. And they don't do it very well because they provide no details. These are all just general accusations by the defense. In fact, I would say it's not important or admissible. You can't bolster the good character of a witness, but to simply make suggestions of bad character is not any root or tethering to this case specifically. Instead of bad character, Brian Albert was a two-time recipient of the George Hanner Award, has many, many medals of honor from the Boston Police Department, but that...
How many awards did Proctor have?
That is not the issue. They suggest that he was involved, so they know that they have to tie him not only to the scene, but somehow to Mr. O'Keefe, and other than being at the bar that night, and Mr. O'Keefe and Miss Reed pulling in front of his property that night, there is no association between the two. They say he's present at the scene of death. By all evidence, Mr. O'Keefe died feet from the street near the flagpole in front of 34 Fairview. So that's a little bit broad. He wasn't present at the scene of the death. He wasn't there. That happened out front on the front yard near the flagpole, about 70 feet from his house. The body was found feet from his front door, arguably, 70 feet, 75 feet. He admits to being home. He doesn't have to admit. He was home. Now, here is another claim without any evidence whatsoever.
I don't know. Apparently, that front yard is deceptively small. But again, a crime scene is a crime scene just this area where the victim is found, or is it? Would you say Fairview 34 is the crime scene?
I would say 34 Fairview is the crime scene, and honestly, the fact that they didn't look in the house still boggles my mind. I don't understand how they have a dead cop on the lawn of a cop's house, and they never bother to look in the house.
Had I been laying on Valhalla's front lawn, they would have knocked the door. Let's just say they wouldn't have said, it's on the lawn. Could be anyone. Probably
clearly wasn't you. I mean, just happens to be your lawn, and you invited him over last night, and you were hanging out with him at a bar last night, and then he showed up at your house, and now he's dead in your lawn. No way.
And the guy
No
you
way.
spent all day with drinking is really mad because the other guy's girlfriend ghosted him. No one has a motive. No one.
No, definitely not.
The defense states emphatically, computer forensic data overwhelmingly establishes O'Keefe entered Albert's house. I haven't seen that evidence. Based on what? So if they're going to make an offer of proof to the court and they're going to make claims to substantiate this theory, they have to have proof of it. And in their motion, I see no proof whatsoever that overwhelmingly establishes John O'Keefe went into the Albert house. In fact, what we see is the opposite. In the past trial, numerous people were called. Every single person that was asked stated they did not see John O'Keefe enter that home. Every single person. Now, whether you believe it or not is irrelevant. What's relevant is there's nothing to the opposite. There's an absence of evidence to the opposite. In fact, the phone data and the Waze data and the GPS and all the data puts John O'Keefe at the front yard, not in the house. So if they're asking the court to make a finding of substantial link and substantial proof that John O'Keefe was in the house, they have to actually give you the facts and the science and the data to support that, and I don't expect that will happen. They add that there was going to be expert testimony that the scratch on John O'Keefe's arm was from an animal or a large dog, and because Brian Albert had a dog in the house, there was some type of inference. Dr. Russell has already testified at the Lanigan hearing that she's not saying that those bite marks were from Chloe. Although it's not been decided by the court, Dr. Crosby has done molds that show that the teeth comparison is totally an opposite. And so even the defense is not saying, as I see from the disclosures, that Chloe bit John O'Keefe.
No one has a left
step. What we don't agree with is that a large animal or a dog caused these wounds. They don't say where, they don't say when, they don't say how. And so that is not a link so that Brian Albert becomes a third-party culprit.
It was probably the other giant German
Shepherd. In a way
Shepherd
to try to create some type of traction against Brian Albert, they associate him with Brian Higgins because they spent the day together, because Brian Higgins, according to them, was rebuffed, because of phone calls at night. All of these general claims with no fact predicate rely on innuendo, surmise, speculation, or just the creation of an inference that does not exist. There is no evidence Brian Albert had any motive whatsoever to harm.
Well, this guy had no motive whatsoever, but texted a girl that he had a slight fling with, who then started ghosting him when she was in a bar with her boyfriend. Do you know what that tells me? Because that tells me you're looking for trouble.
Oh yeah, he was sitting there stewing. He was like, well,
he was drunk out of his mind and thought she's gonna hit the exchange rate right now on me, on John to me. It's gonna. I'm a Casanova. I would never ever text Mrs. Valhalla at a bar if Valhalla was standing next to her and saying, well, because I knew that at the odd chance he saw it, I would probably need dental work.
It would be an issue. Like if clearly there's some animosity brewing that evening between these gentlemen, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
And Jemima has it correct here. If he has no motive, then Karen has no motive, because their crux of it is that she wanted out of the relationship. That's why she hooked up with Higgins. That's why they got into the fight in the car that no one has proved, but it has also stated in open court. It's, again, no one, when I watched the trial and saw his testimony, I haven't pointed to anyone because I don't want to start rumors, spread rumors, or anything. But I'm just saying, if I had to point at someone who had the means, motive, and opportunity, I would point to Brian Higgins because of the, and I have seen more than one guy with a broken nose because he thought he could chat up someone else's girlfriend via text or in person in a bar. Because you don't listen to the, she texted me and we might have had a thing before. No, you get the punch first.
John O'Keefe, none. There was not one witness. There's not one statement that Brian Albert had any animus whatsoever towards John O'Keefe. None. He did not have the motive. He did not have the opportunity. And there was no evidence that he was involved in any way in the alleged collision that happened in the front of his yard that night. Finally, the defense turns
But you still haven't proven he was hit in a collision. I hate this guy.
to Mr. Higgins. Mr. Higgins was at the Albert address that night. John O'Keefe never went into the Albert address that night. They take very, very select pieces of information, and I would suggest don't tell the whole story. And from that, they want us to speculate a motive. For example, they say that Karen Reed had kissed Mr. Higgins at John's house. That seems to be corroborated in the text messages. According to the text messages, Mr. Higgins essentially says that Miss Reed came up to him and planted a kiss on him. And there's quite a bit of text message exchange that you heard during trial about that interaction. And then at some point, Miss Reed went to Mr. Higgins' house. And so there was some interest, it would appear, from the text messages between the two. Mutual. At best. There's a plethora of text messages where Miss Reed is pursuing Mr. Higgins, looking for his time, looking for his intention. And one she says,
and then she starts ghosting him.
Come over.
And then he starts
Do you like
pursuing
me?
her.
Come over to my house. There are text messages talking about Mr. Higgins not having enough time for her. So there is a flirtatious relationship between the two of them. What we don't see is that somehow that creates a motive for Mr. Higgins to want to hurt or kill John O'Keefe. The fact that they are texting together and later that night he sends a text message.
You may not be familiar with this, Brennan, but there's this thing called testosterone. And testosterone makes men do really silly shit when it comes to women.
Let's just take this part again because this is a mistake.
To want to hurt or kill John O'Keefe. The fact that they are texting together and later that night he sends a text message because he...
Well, you can say he just might say it in a way that came off. They are texting together. She hadn't texted him in 2 to 3 weeks before this. So again, he's not lying, but he's saying it in a way that, oh, they were having an ongoing relationship. They weren't. She had ghosted him hard before this.
I think an inference the defense would raise is that he felt like he was ignored or wanted to know what was going on with their relationship. Is not evidence of motive. In all of these text messages, you never see any animosity towards John O'Keefe. Mr. Higgins' text messages are virtually all kind towards John O'Keefe. It's uncomfortable, it's an awkward situation because both of them appear to be deceptive as it relates to John O'Keefe, but there is no vengeance, there is no anger. And so the suggestion that there is a motive because there was flirtatious text messages to then kill the man is beyond the pale. It's beyond any logical connection that would support third-party culprit. Brian Higgins sent a text message saying to John O'Keefe, asking if he was coming to the home that night, and they then attached the word he lured them to the house. I mean, we do look at this evidence not in a vacuum, but logically and realistically. Not knowing that Karen Reed was not going to come in when they arrived at the house. Is it reasonable? Is it rational? Is it lucid to think that that Mr. Higgins was inviting them both over to the house, not knowing only one of them will get out of the car? Is it a suggestion that Mr. Higgins was going to kill both of them? Or he was going to kill one of them, so the other one he would then set up for murder so that he wouldn't be able to see her anyways? The absurdity of the relationship between the claim and reality is so great that it will just run rampant through this trial. It will be unrelated, speculative, shotgun approach to claims that the witness will spend their time trying to explain and defend. It will distract the jury, and it will serve the purpose, which the case law says it shouldn't, of taking attention off the facts at issue for the case we're here from. And that attempt to divert anybody but the defendant is the attempt here. That's why we have three, we don't know who, but three potential third-party culprit evidences with absolutely fragile evidence. It's feeble. As their support, what they offer is they believe Mr. Higgins lied because he went to the Canton Police Department to do administrative work. And I think the evidence is clear that he had cars that he parked there as part of his job that he needed to clean off. So they are parsing words in an attempt to create a basis that doesn't exist. That there are calls between Mr. Albert and Mr. Higgins later that night. So what?
They lied about them. They said they never happened.
Not to mention, He's going back to the department at 1, 2 a.m. drunk out of his mind to go move cars. The same time that John O'Keefe just happens to be turning up dead. Come on,
yeah,
bro.
and
I can't believe that.
I really hope the defense can just go up there and roll out a 12-inch Alabama black snake and just slam him across the face and say, "Go shut up."
How
No evidence.
How is it possible, right? So Proctor actually got fired for alcohol-related things, plus the
Yes,
text messages,
drinking on the
right?
job, yeah.
Higgins is on video, drunk out of his mind, and then reports to duty at 1 a.m. drunk to move cars, which is very illegal to do when you're drunk, especially if you're doing it under a federal duty. Like, how is he still employed? How is Higgins still an agent? This is...
But did he report to duty? Did he sign in, or did he just go to the police station? He claims he went there and moved some cars, but if he did it on his own time, then he can get nicked for driving while drunk. They can't prove it now. But if he went,
if he's moving federally owned vehicles, if he's using work vehicles and he's drunk, that's he should be at least fired, if not worse. It doesn't make sense to me that they haven't fired him.
No, and again, what about, did we ever find out anything about that Fed guy that he used to download his phones? Nothing really came from that either. So, but again, it's federal offenses. It has nothing to do with this trial.
Yeah, Brian Higgins is an ATF agent, you guys.
Yeah.
So he's a federal agent.
Federal employee, yeah.
Either of them spoke to each other. They have no evidence of conversations. They have no evidence of a conspiracy. They have no evidence of a cover-up. They have no evidence of a weapon. What we know is John O'Keefe never went in the home. And so to try to create this image based on obscure facts is not the substance that's required under third-party culprit. I know third-party culprit is a time-honored tradition and is a broad latitude, but it's not endless. It can't prejudice the
Microdots already have it up. Breenan claims that front door is 70 feet from O'Keefe's body. The truth is he was found 49 feet from the front door.
Less than 50.
Yeah, but what's 20 feet when you try to blame a girl?
What are facts in a murder trial? Why bother? He's the Commonwealth. He doesn't need facts. Ugh.
Commonwealth. It can't distract the jury. It can't be based on fiction. It has to be based on an identifiable theory. The cases that have allowed third-party culprit that have been reported have actual people who could be a third-party culprit, who actually have relationships to the scene or the crime or the deceased. In this case, an attempt to call Mr. Higgins a liar or create fictions about what they think he could have been doing or guessing what they want him to do is not evidence. 9 people testified John never came into the house. 9 people. There's no overwhelming evidence or any evidence he went into the house. There's no evidence of motive on any of these 3 people they identified. They've had, before the last trial, the entire trial, and was aptly pointed out, no request for a third-party culprit instruction. And then they had since then to make an actual proffer that people actually have the motive, opportunity, and intent to do this. That there's actual evidence that there's this alternative theory, and they failed to do it. To have the defense go through a trial, distract the jury, attack the reputation and character of the witnesses, and then not even ask for an instruction at the end. It evidenced the fact that there is no basis for it.
It's not his property. It's federal property.
It's public property. It's owned by the taxpayers, and the vehicles are owned by the taxpayers. And I promise you, there's not a law enforcement agency in the world that would allow a drunk cop to move a vehicle. Not in the States anyway. Maybe in Russia or something where it's like,
Hey, in Russia, drunkest I view. And most likely, the area where the officers' cars are parked is also gated off, so it's not a public public area.
There's a good chance that would be a restricted public area, I guess would be the best way to say it. But there's no way, y'all, that if he was drunk and moving those cars, that he shouldn't be fired. Period. period.
Third-party culprit. Now, separately, third-party culprit is part of Bowden. Even if the defense at the end does not warrant an instruction, I recognize that challenging the police investigation is virtually an entitlement of the defense. How they do it and the extent they can do it is a different story.
Holly,
Yeah,
this is
so.
exactly what I was thinking. He just wanted so he can prep for the. I don't know if I haven't seen the motion. It's most likely under wraps, but he wants to know what do we have a third-party culprit, so we can prep them just like we did with the other questions when they found out that nothing was as the Commonwealth thought. So this is just a fishing expedition to get ahead and prep your witnesses so they can lie again on the stand.
Simply because they have an attack on the police investigation does not let them use third parties.
Oh yeah, he must have used his key card to get into the building. So
He did.
He
did.
Yeah, he should have been fired.
Part of that. And so the standard, Silva Santiago, is very clear, it's cited by almost every case, is that there has to be something the police didn't do at the time that they knew about and should have done.
I'll be right
Like
back.
So
searching the
at time
house.
of their investigation is being criticized. They would have had to have known about a potential third-party culprit or third-party culprit evidence and didn't pursue it. And that's where the defense argument utterly fails there. Because at the time the police were doing this investigation, what they knew is that John O'Keefe was on the front lawn of 34 Fairview near the street. They knew that he was dying or is dead. And a number of witnesses knew that Miss Reed was saying, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. A number of witnesses. Shortly thereafter, what the police knew is that Miss Reed's taillight was cracked. And shortly after, what they learned and knew, after they got her car, is that part of her taillight was missing. So at that time when they were doing their investigation, there was no claim of dog bites. That came months and months later. They went to 34 Fairview and they spoke to the owner, according to witness testimony. And everything seemed appropriate. Concerned, confused, no blood, no scratches, no cover-up, no turned over furniture. There was nothing that would have alerted the police officers that there was any road to follow other than the road they followed. Now they can be criticized for plastic cups or leaf blowers, but that's different. That's different. In order to have third-party culprit under Bowden, the police would have to have known that there was information that targeted or pointed out a different person, and they didn't pursue it. So in the cases cited by both the Commonwealth and the defense, there are a number of cases that talk about information that was known to police at the time they were investigating and they failed to pursue it. That is not this case. That is not this case. There was nothing in any of these proffers that show actual evidence that the police knew of these later third-party culprit claims by the defense, or they knew at the time they were doing this investigation that there was any other lead. And likely the reason was is because there wasn't. The evidence for a reasonable police officer pointed towards the statements, towards the car, towards the light, and that was followed up, which led to DNA and hair and all the other evidence that followed the data. And so, as a concession to the defense, they don't simply get to bring in third-party culprit through Bowden because they failed in the instant case to show a third-party culprit. That's not part of their entitlement. And mindful that if they do raise Bowden, whether they get instruction or not, it is brought. And that means the police, including any police they would call in this case, or we would call, is entitled then to share their state of mind why they did not do something. That can open doors to inadmissible evidence, privileged materials. The state of mind of the officer is relevant if they make it relevant. So we should not engage in a process where we allow witnesses to be asked questions with no ability of the defense to follow up those questions with actual proof. We should not engage in a process where witnesses, their character is attacked when it has no relationship whatsoever to this crime. And witnesses shouldn't be put through the ordeal of defending themselves based on generalizations about supposedly being violent or having a temper. There needs to be that nexus, and it fails. It is beyond feeble. And so I ask Your Honor not to allow third-party culprit in the instant, and you should not allow it as part of Bowden.
All right, thank you.
Oh, I can't stand him. I really can't stand him.
He's such an asshole.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth's motion raises three interconnected issues, not just two. I believe that two of those were conflated by the Commonwealth. I'd like to separate them out. The first issue is the introduction or admissibility of evidence relevant to show that somebody else harmed John O'Keefe. The second issue, which I think was conflated with the first, is whether after the introduction of such evidence, the defense is allowed to argue that a specific person or persons caused John O'Keefe's death. And then the third issue is whether the police properly investigated this matter in light of the information that they had or information they could have obtained or failed to follow up on to show that somebody else caused John O'Keefe's death. Regarding the first issue, which Mr. Brennan spent a lot of his argument on, there is ample evidence tending to show that somebody else caused John O'Keefe's death. In our opposition, we have cataloged the evidence against each of the potential third-party culprits that we named the last time we were in court. Each one of them had a motive and an opportunity to harm John O'Keefe. The investigators in this case had evidence that pointed to Brian Albert. Brian Albert is a violent man. He was not only a boxer who punched people in the ring, he was also a violent drunk who sucker punched other police officers. Those police officers are on our witness list. He's been investigated by the...
No!
What happened?
They lost signal again. Go F yourself.
With that interpretation of the evidence, but it exists. It's a live issue at trial. At the time John O'Keefe entered that house, an intoxicated Brian Albert was inside. He had been drinking day and night for hours at a time, and he was liquored up. He testified to that. He was at the hillside when he had his first drink in the afternoon, and he testified under oath he was drinking consistently the entire rest of the day and night. The Commonwealth says that every single person didn't see him in the house. Those same witnesses that the Commonwealth points to, every single one of them also did not see him on the front yard, where Mr. Breenan claims that he was at the relevant time period. That day and night, Brian Albert was attached at the hip to his close friend, Brian Higgins. This
a little
was the
too
night
attached at the
that
hip.
after having carried on a flirtation with Ms. Reed while she was dating Mr. O'Keefe, Brian Higgins was confronted with Ms. Reed and Mr. O'Keefe together. In the words of one eyewitness, Ms. Reed and Mr. O'Keefe appeared to be lovey-dovey that night. Higgins had expressed his interest, but it went nowhere. And it went nowhere because prior to January 28th of 2022, Ms. Reed had rebuffed him, essentially ghosted him. She stopped returning his messages. Brian Higgins was liquored up that night as well. They're both very large men. The court saw them on the video. Friends who drank the entire day and night, and they were waiting in the house for Mr. O'Keefe to arrive. Mr. O'Keefe ended up dead because he went to Brian Albert's house. After Brian Higgins left, Brian Albert maintained contact with him. At 2:22 in the morning, the two of them were exchanging phone calls to check in with each other just a couple of hours after Mr. O'Keefe was mortally attacked. Mr. O'Keefe had dog bites and or scratches on his arm consistent with a dog or an animal attack. Brian Albert had a large German Shepherd who had attacked and injured somebody in the past. It all fits. The Commonwealth utterly failed to investigate Brian Albert as a potential suspect, and I'm sure the court remembers the words in the text message of now ex-trooper Michael Proctor, the lead investigator who's now been fired as a result, in part, of being biased in this investigation. I would point out also that when Mr. O'Keefe was in the house, both Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were unaccounted for, according to the testimony. With regard to Michael Proctor's words, he was asked specifically if the homeowner would catch any grief for having a deceased person on his front yard, and Michael he chose to ignore his duty to help somebody in need and instead stayed in his bedroom. And Brian Albert's dog, the family dog, a member of the family for 7 years, Brian Albert got rid of the dog, shipped it to another state, only after it was made known in court that the defense was alleging that the dog had been involved in the attack on John O'Keefe. We showed photos of John O'Keefe's arm in a public hearing where it was clear to any unbiased observer that Mr. O'Keefe suffered those particular wounds.
It's normal because he's arguing against their motion. That's why he was going first. No, it was his motion. He presented his motion.
From a dog or animal attack. Brian Albert responds to that allegation by essentially divorcing his family from their beloved dog, whom they had had for 7 years and certainly considered to be a member of the family. In the aftermath of John O'Keefe's death, Brian Albert went so far as to send that family member to another state. That's enough evidence to point to Brian Albert as a potential third-party culprit in this case.
What the hell? Just trying to check if it's consistent. No, I'm trying to switch. I'm not sure that they will have closed caption on this side, but...
Place 7 years before the murder. Accept the testimony that they were taken before the scraped up knuckles photo. He made sure that investigators might be interested in the contents of his phone station on video making house that night. In fact, he appears fixated on making sure he would have been there. It is known in court that the defense was alleging that the dog had been involved in the attack on John O'Keefe. In Michael Proctor's words, he was asked specifically if the homeowner would catch any grief for having a deceased person on his front yard, and Michael Proctor said, nope, the homeowner is a Boston cop too. The message was clear. If you're a suspect, you get fully investigated unless you're on the right side of the blue wall. If you're a police officer, you get a pass. Now, in addition to the 2:22 a.m. phone calls with Higgins, there's other consciousness of guilt evidence implicating Brian Albert. And I would note, this is not something that Mr. Breenan addressed in his argument. He did talk about the consciousness of guilt evidence. Despite a massive police presence on his front yard, just feet from his bedroom, Brian Albert never came out to speak with investigators. And it's worth noting, it's worth stressing, that Brian Albert was a first responder. He chose to ignore his duty to help somebody in need and instead stayed in his bedroom. And Brian Albert's dog, the family dog, a member of the family for 7 years, Brian Albert got rid of the dog, shipped it to another state, only after it was made known in court that the defense was alleging that the dog had been involved in the attack on John O'Keefe. We showed photos of John O'Keefe's arm in a public hearing where it was clear to any unbiased observer that Mr. O'Keefe suffered those particular wounds from a dog or animal attack. Brian Albert responds to that allegation by essentially divorcing his family from their beloved dog, whom they had had for 7 years and certainly considered to be a member of the family. In the aftermath of John O'Keefe's death, Brian Albert went so far as to send that family member to another state. That's enough evidence to point to Brian Albert as a potential third-party culprit in this case. It's evidence that he had the motive, intent, and opportunity to hurt John O'Keefe. Brian Higgins is another potential third-party culprit. Like Brian Albert, Brian Higgins was present at the scene of the crime. He was there at the relevant time, in the house, again, unaccounted for, at the same time John O'Keefe would have been there. Brian Albert had cause to back up his friend, but it was Higgins himself who was the one who had been flirting with Ms. Reed in the weeks leading up to January 29th. He testified that she kissed him goodbye after they had watched an NFL playoff game at a get-together not long before January 29th. He testified that she had visited him at his apartment after that, but he acknowledged that their text exchange and all contact between them ended, and Ms. Reed was the one to end the contact. She stopped responding to him. She no longer gave him any attention. So we come to January 28th. Brian Higgins sees Ms. Reed in person, but she's not alone. She's instead with Ms.
Sorry. How could she have kissed him at a Super Bowl party before January 29th? Isn't Super Bowl always the first weekend of February?
Mr. O'Keefe. Ms. Reed and Mr. O'Keefe are affectionate with each other that night, and Higgins is there to see it, as is Brian Albert. There's evidence that...
Oh, playoff. I heard Super Bowl. I thought, what the hell?
Playoff.
Well, it was probably the New England Patriots. They lost in a way.
Mr. Higgins wants Mr. O'Keefe to come to the Alberts' house that night. In fact, he appears fixated on making sure that Mr. O'Keefe went there. In the waterfall video, Your Honor, you will see that Higgins motions to Mr. O'Keefe when they're leaving. And Higgins even texts him directly after that to make sure that he was coming. Then Higgins goes to the Albert home. John O'Keefe goes inside. Higgins is there waiting for him, with both the motive and now the opportunity to hurt John O'Keefe. Like Brian Albert, there's evidence of his consciousness of guilt as well. After a long day of driving and drinking, Higgins leaves Brian Albert's residence, does not go home. Instead, he goes to the Canton police in the early morning hours. He initially claims he went there to do administrative work. He changed that testimony at trial to him going there to move a vehicle. But he's always maintained, including in the first trial, that he never called anyone. We've learned since that trial that Higgins is at the station on video making a phone call. So I suppose the question is, why did he lie about that? The jury in this trial should be entitled to consider the answer to that question. And of course, the police never investigated who he was calling or what he said or who was calling him. Then he goes home and he still stays up. And at 2:22 in the morning, he's speaking by phone with Brian Albert. And he claims that they didn't, but the phone records don't lie. And this notion that these two men are somehow able to butt dial and butt answer each other is just ridiculous. And there's more consciousness of guilt evidence with regard to Higgins. When he realizes that investigators might be interested in the contents of his phone to see what evidence might be on it, he demonstrates consciousness of guilt by getting rid of his SIM card and the phone itself. And how he got rid of it was extraordinary and demonstrates just how badly he wanted to keep that information out of the hands of investigators. He admitted to breaking the SIM card into and making a special trip to a military base to put this tiny object, the size of about a thumbnail, into a large dumpster. It wasn't enough to throw it in a waste paper basket or a trash can outside the local Dunkin' Donuts. Instead, he went through security at a military base and secretly tossed this tiny broken SIM card into a dumpster. He made sure that investigators would never know what's on his phone, and he admitted to that at the first trial. And of course, the investigators in this case, including the lead investigator, former trooper Michael Proctor, never showed any interest in Higgins' phone. Higgins nonetheless accomplished his goal of keeping the contents of the phone out of the hands of the defense in this case. That's powerful evidence of motive, intent, opportunity, and consciousness of guilt of Brian Higgins. As Mr. Breenan acknowledges, all doubt should be resolved in favor of the admission of third-party culprit evidence, linking him to the harm caused to John O'Keefe. And finally, Colin Albert is a potential suspect. He had been in a feud with John O'Keefe. He'd thrown beer cans in his bushes, told him to F off. We have a good faith basis to claim that. This is the same Colin Albert who testified under oath he had never been in a fight in his life, yet there are videos of him clearly desperate to beat up others. The same Colin Albert who had scraped out knuckles just a few weeks after John O'Keefe's death. Those knuckles looked consistent with an attack on somebody. The photographs that Mr. Breenan references that were allegedly before that photo had no metadata. We can't confirm when those were taken. Mr. Breenan wants us to just accept the testimony that they were taken before the scraped up knuckles photo. We don't buy it. We don't think a jury will buy it. When John O'Keefe was found, he had two black eyes looking like he had been punched in the face. Colin Albert was at his uncle's house with both his uncle and Brian Higgins, disliking Mr. O'Keefe for a different reason, but disliking him nonetheless. And it's suspicious that Colin Albert's name was purposely omitted out of the police reports. There was no indication in any police report provided to the defense in the first few months of this investigation that Colin Albert was anywhere close to 34 Fairview, his uncle's house, on January 29th. In fact, there's no indication in those police reports that Colin Albert even existed. Initially, we didn't even know who he was. But we found out when we sent a letter to Mr. Lally, while the case was still pending before a grand jury, notifying the Commonwealth that Colin Albert should be called as a witness before the grand jury. It was only after we sent that letter, notifying the prosecution that we were on to Colin Albert, that testimony was elicited that Colin Albert was indeed at 34 Fairview that night. The defense caused this to be revealed, not any investigator of this case. And there's obviously an inference that his name was kept out of the police reports to protect him. The same way Brian Albert is the only person listed in the initial report whose first name is not even spelled out. He's just listed as B. Albert with an incorrect address. There appeared to be a conscious effort of these investigators to hide third-party culprits from the defense. All of these men, Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, Colin Albert, were present at 34 Fairview the night that John O'Keefe was killed, and each had a motive, intent, and opportunity to cause him harm. Now, there are many cases, Your Honor, I know the court is aware of this, endorsing the admission of third-party culprit evidence. Almost all of them allowed in a third-party culprit defense, despite a lack of evidence that the third-party culprit in those cases was actually at the scene of the crime at the relevant time. The first case cited by the prosecution, Commonwealth versus Conkey, Middlesex County case, I remember it from the 90s. It was retried in the early 2000s. In that case, a person was murdered inside a home, just like this case. Unlike this case, however, the defense could not.
They didn't say stuff like that during the first trial.
No, they didn't.
They never ever said stuff like this during the first trial. They must.
I think
they must have something.
I think they realized that the GPS actually does possibly show him entering the house. Like I think that slipped by him in the first trial, the whole, GPS circle thing, but it very much showed that he could have been in the house. And I think they're going to pound on that this time around.
But they must have more than that, than just it's possible he went inside the house. They never, ever openly stated he died in the house. They just stated he was in the house. Geodata isn't enough because it's like Valhalla talked about the first trial. It's just, this is the area someone could have been in. And he could have been in the house according to the geodata. But again, everyone is always talking about geofence data. You can't obtain geofence data three years later. It doesn't magically appear, and the police didn't look for it. The only thing you can do is you can try, and if you have the GPS coordinates of some people, to put them near each other, but they must have some hard physical evidence to prove it. It's not enough to say, well, he could potentially have been in the house.
So I'm going to speculate slightly, but it could be possible that the federal investigation gathered the geodata and it's still there. Like they still have it somewhere.
Yeah, but again, if you have the geodata, and that looks like this, what does that prove? If we say the house is the X, and these are the three people's phones around it, because that's how geodata looks. It's not going to be that they can place the phones next to each other, because phones are way too inaccurate for that. You're going to have something like this, and it's just going to prove they were at the same address, which we already know they were. The only person we could discuss if they were there is Colin Albert. Colin Albert.
Albert.
That's so again. That's pure speculation to say that, well, they were at the same address. We already know that.
Placed the third-party culprit at the home when the murder was committed. He lived down the street, and that was enough. Here we have hard evidence, irrefutable evidence.
Since the early 70s.
That the three potential third-party culprits were present exactly when the murder was committed. And it's notable that the defense in Conkey, in that second retrial, after the first conviction was reversed, the defense was allowed by the trial judge to present a third-party culprit defense, and it wasn't controversial. But the conviction was nonetheless overturned, the second conviction, on appeal, because the trial judge didn't let the defense go far enough in presenting that defense. The SJC ruled that in addition to presenting evidence of motive...
Yeah, but again, what does it prove? That he was... They can say, well, he must have been at the door, no one heard him, he turned around and walked away. We have it wrong. There might be a hiccup in the satellites. Valhalla, you have had the satellite, military satellite things where you're sitting looking at them, and you'll see that the number goes up and down because it depends on when the satellites. You can bounce feet by sitting still.
So the thing to remember with the satellites, y'all, is yes, they can be extremely accurate, right? You can get them within a meter, I think, on most GPSs, but they're not always 100% that accurate, right? When it triangulates, it'll shift around. There's a lot of different things that can kind of make it wonky for a minute. They can be super accurate. They're not always 100% accurate.
And the weather conditions also play, because it's a satellite system. So how much did it bounce off the atmosphere? It's not enough proof to say they were at the address. To say they unalived him. I don't buy that. That is the only evidence they have.
With intent and opportunity, the defense in that case should have been allowed to introduce past sexual assaults of the third-party culprit, including one that took place 7 years before the murder. It was reversible error not to permit a full third-party culprit defense, including prior bad acts of the third-party culprit. And I will ask the court to consider Commonwealth versus Finney, a case that I'm very well familiar.
It's actually not accurate because there's a built-in discrepancy, so the bad guys can't put it in stuff that can go boom. That's why GPS are built in with a margin of error to make sure that you can't.
Volstorm and I, an expert, were talking the other day. An expert seems to think that we should go to the metric system in America. He seems to think that that's probably the better route to use for measurement.
He learned from the best.
As I previously mentioned, I brought that motion for new trial. I argued before the Supreme Judicial Court, and I tried the retrial of that case, so I know it well. The SJC affirmed Judge Ball's allowance of the motion for new trial in that case, ruling that it was ineffective assistance of counsel that the attorney did not raise a third-party culprit defense. The case law makes clear, as Mr. Breenan again acknowledges, that this defense is a time-honored method of defending against a criminal charge. The defense should be given wide latitude to present relevant evidence that somebody else committed a crime. But the main issue in Finney was whether the defense could introduce hearsay to support an already admissible third-party culprit defense. It's sort of like Conkey, where it's just assumed, yes, of course you can present a third-party culprit defense. But in Conkey, can you introduce unrelated sexual assaults from 7 years before? The answer was yes. And in Finney, of course you can present a third-party culprit defense. But can you also introduce hearsay to support that defense? It was a given. In fact, it was reversible error that the third-party culprit defense was not brought the first time around. Mr. Breenan talks about...
The problem is they have to turn it over to Hank so he can prepare. They can't do trial by ambush. But they will try and keep as much out of his hands as possible, because clearly we saw in the first trial that they used it to prep their witnesses.
Well, you can't do this if it prejudices the Commonwealth. That's crazy. Every single time you introduce a third-party culprit defense, you are prejudicing the Commonwealth by definition. You're not going along with their theory of the case. Mr. Breenan's agreed that we would deign to present this defense. I would note, Judge, there's, I believe, a certain amount of gaslighting going on here in that on one side of his mouth, he talks about he wants Ms. Reed to have a fair trial. But we've spent weeks where he's just trying to knock out all our evidence, just limit everything.
He called out the gaslighting.
I believe acting more like a defense attorney than a prosecutor in that regard. But regardless, in terms of these cases, Mr. Breenan said that they all have third-party culprits who have relationships to the alleged victim and or relationships to the scene of the crime. Finney did not. In Finney, my client was the next-door neighbor. My client signed a confession to the murder. The third-party culprit lived several houses away within the same city, but not close, not next door. There was no relationship other than he made statements about how the victim probably deserved what she got. She wasn't the goody two-shoes, but there was no, that she was made out to be. But there was no witness that put the two of them together in any way other than those hearsay statements. Nobody put him at the scene of the crime. The SJC ruled even hearsay should be admissible to support that third-party culprit defense. The defense in this case has more evidence of third-party culprits than the defense did in Finney. We're not asking this court to allow into evidence hearsay, as was admissible in Finney. We're solely seeking to introduce the crux of a third-party culprit defense, which is evidence of motive, opportunity, and means, all of which Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, and Colin Albert had. That's the nuts and bolts of a third-party culprit defense. So that's the first issue, presenting evidence of a third-party culprit defense. The second issue is whether we can argue in closing that a third-party culprit is responsible for John O'Keefe's death.
They are arguing the third-party culprit defense, and as I'm a little bit confused, it seems like Breenan again used case law that actually says the opposite of what he claims. So it's the same old, Breenan stands up there, clutches his pearls, talk about the evil defense, evil Karen, and then they come up there and say, Your Honor, everything that guy said is bullshit.
That's an issue I suggest that the court does not need to decide now in advance of trial. Closing arguments come at the very end of trial. At the charge conference, this court would be in a position and would be entitled to evaluate the evidence as it came in and to make a decision at that time prior to closing arguments as to what we can argue and what we can't. And while we believe the court has enough evidence now as a result of the first trial and as a result of our proffer and our submissions and oral argument today to rule that a third-party culprit defense is permissible, but this court, at a minimum, should not deny argument on that issue before evaluating the evidence as it comes in. And that brings us to the final third issue, of Bowden defense. Obviously, attacking the inadequacies of a police investigation is bedrock constitutional law. It's a bedrock constitutional right. In this regard, in one sense, the discussion about the third-party culprit evidence is somewhat academic as opposed to a practical one, because all of the evidence that points to Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, and or Colin Albert, all of it comes in to show the lack of investigation, the lack of curiosity that the police had, and the lack of investigation that they did to rule any of them out. And it comes in to show the bias of the investigators of this case. Bias is also a constitutional right. They were perfectly willing to jump to conclusions about Ms. Reed, someone outside their law enforcement circle, on the wrong side of the blue wall, but very much unwilling to be curious about whether someone within their circle had the motive, opportunity, and means to hurt John O'Keefe. Former Trooper Proctor specifically told his friends he had no interest in investigating someone connecting with law enforcement. And in their internal affairs findings, his superiors noted that his apparent bias was one of the reasons he was fired. You can't have a stronger Bowden defense than that. So I would argue, Judge, that the Commonwealth's motion really comes down to what the defense will be able to argue in this case. Our position is we should be able to point the finger of guilt at those who might have done this, but at a minimum, given that the evidence will be coming into trial anyway on the Bowden issue, the court should reserve judgment on what we will be allowed to argue from now, weeks from now, when closing arguments are upon us. This evidence, in conclusion, in our view, must come in. This is a due process constitutional right of my client, and it has to be admitted for two reasons. Number one, it's a time-honored method of defending against a criminal charge by pointing out that somebody else could have done this. And number two, it's a time-honored method of defending against the criminal charge by pointing out that police investigators failed to do their jobs correctly. We have a stronger third-party culprit evidence situation here than existed in either Conkey or Finney, and we assert it would be reversible error for this court to exclude this evidence. Unless the court has further questions, I would rest on my memorandum.
Thank you, Marissa. A new screen front for when you chuck a rock today. I'm calm as a cucumber.
So far.
Well, it's
So
at some
far.
point we just have to just say the lying liar is gonna lie. We're so far behind. Oh, he's going back up there. Oh.
I'm going to choose to focus on case law and the facts that aren't presented by the defense. We
Never
see
mind
in the motion
everything
there's
you
a
just said.
grand claim that
Watch
there's
what I do
extraordinary
instead.
evidence that John O'Keefe went into 34 Fairview that night. That is critical because there is no basis to accuse somebody.
I'm gonna focus on case law, and then he goes to John O'Keefe burned in at the house.
Of murdering another person if they don't have the opportunity. In other cases, a third-party culprit is not necessarily found at the scene, even in Finney. It's more than just a couple of derogatory words. In Finney, as counsel knows, there was a neighbor who had an axe or a club. He was seen with blood, went home, washed his clothes, wholly irregular, and because of this irregularity and the timing, he was then asked by his then wife about the victim, and he made a number of derogatory comments about her, showing ill will, evidencing, tangentially, motive. And so no, a third party does not necessarily have to be at the scene at the time the police investigate, but they have to be with the deceased if they caused the death. It's obvious. And so we didn't hear any extraordinary evidence, none. We didn't hear kind of good evidence. We didn't hear any evidence. We just have the bald assertion that the data forensic evidence will show that he was in the house. It didn't, it doesn't, they don't have a proffer. So there is no opportunity to murder John O'Keefe when all the evidence points to him dying on the front lawn from an alleged collision.
From an electrical
The
issue.
Defense's
Alleged collision.
effort to tell
Oh.
a story.
I was thought, what the hell?
Take a couple of facts. Someone's a boxer, they drank alcohol, and convert it into a story. Is how they will try to portray these unsubstantiated facts at trial. They'll tell a story. It will divert the jury's attention. So they're not entitled to it. They're not entitled to it. Time-honored tradition, yes, but there are limitations. Silva Santiago was very clear about the limitations. This latitude is not unbounded. Each of these limitations recognizes the admission of feeble third-party culprit evidence poses a risk of unfair prejudice to the Commonwealth. I'm not whining. The Commonwealth should not be unfairly prejudiced. The people of the Commonwealth should not be unfairly prejudiced. Because it is inevitably, it diverts jurors' attention away from the defendant on trial and onto the third party. Essentially, it requires the Commonwealth to prove beyond a reasonable doubt the third-party culprit did not commit the crime. If there was evidence of third-party culprit, the defendant should be entitled to use it. In this case, there is not. There is no motive. There is no motive. To suggest that one person was pining, although the text messages don't show that, they both stopped corresponding with each other days before. To suggest that Mr. Albert is friends with Mr. Higgins and therefore he is bootstrapped into a conspiracy to kill with no evidence. Certainly the defense can infer certain facts like getting rid of the SIM card in a way they want, and I don't begrudge that at all. There's different interpretations to it. I understand that. This was heavily considered in the federal investigation, and after that absolute thorough investigation, there were no charges.
What?
There was no evidence of third-party culprit. There were no indictments. And so, although we don't know
How
the
does he
parameters
know
of
how
federal
thorough that
investigation, we can only guess
investigation
as to
was?
some of it. We know from what we did receive in review. it
Well,
was thorough.
clearly he hasn't looked at it.
And if there was third-party culprit evidence, we would expect that there would be a basis for it. It's not an entitlement to simply bring it in under Bowden. I don't defend that there was commentary in the officer's phone that was inappropriate. But that doesn't automatically create a situation where there is evidence that the police officers knew that there was somebody that should have been investigated. In fact, when Mr. Albert came down the stairs, the testimony is the police officer was already inside his home. There's no evidence Mr. O'Keefe, a first responder, was still outside that aid could have been rendered. That is just, it's not speculative, it's just piecing.
Jen McCabe was going in and out of that house. There's no way Brian Albert didn't know that John O'Keefe was sitting on the lawn.
Can one of the mods get me the pictures from the neighbors from outside of the house that morning? I want to show you why believing that Brian didn't get up and get out. And again, they went lights and sirens, I believe. If I can find a picture, I can tell you why Brian Albert slept through all of it is about as stupid as anyone could claim. My dad was an EMT. When we were sitting, we lived close to a big road. He could hear when a car crash he had to run through to, because he could hear if someone hit something hard and said, "Oh, I'm gonna go check it out. Please call 911 and say that there's been an accident." He could hear it because he used to be an EMT for 42 years. He would wake up in the middle of the night if there was sirens going off, because that was his effing job for 42 years. Bri was the greatest cop in history. And
there's no way, Baker. There's no way that he slept through it. There's no way with a German Shepherd barking her fool head off in that house that he
she just she was sleeping.
Yeah, the German Shepherd crazy dog also slept through this commotion. Get out of here, man. There's no way.
Well, he did have smexy time with Coco that night. Those 40 seconds, they with a smoking break, of course.
Together different facts and telling a story. So inevitably, while I recognize the case law, there are plenty of cases that talk about third-party culprits should not be admitted if inappropriate. Commonwealth v. Stedman. In that case, a person, not the defendant, was in a fight with a person at a campsite. And then later the defendant supposedly went back to the campsite, a friend of this person, Royal, and used a knife to stab and kill him. And the defense wanted to introduce prior convictions about the fact that this supposed third-party culprit had attacked people at other homeless sites. Pretty close relationship. A person having a history of attacking people at homeless tent sites. And the court, looking at 403, did not allow it as third-party culprit. They said that the admission would be feeble, pose a risk of unfair prejudice. In that case, there was third-party culprit admitted pursuant to Bowden in a very different way. Commonwealth v. Moore. The court would not admit layered hearsay showing different identifications that were relayed by the police from third parties regarding a culprit. They said that the hearsay was uncertain, the source is unreliable, and it was inadmissible as third-party culprit. So it is not an entitlement to be third-party culprit. Commonwealth v. Buckman, 461 Mass. 2011. The defendant was charged with murdering his wife. When they received a report from one of the defendant's friends, the defendant was softly tied to a pole that looked like he had been kidnapped. Inevitably, the police determined that he had help or tied himself as a ruse. And this person, the helper, his friend, had connections to gambling, was there, and when the police couldn't...
I'm just going to show you what absolutely did not wake up one of the greatest cops in history. This is the ring camera from the opposite side of the road. Didn't wake him up one bit. That's who would notice all of this going on outside of their house?
Certainly not a cop. A cop wouldn't have any
No.
interest in this scene unfolding in their front yard. No way. Not a German Shepherd either. A German Shepherd would sleep right through this. There's no way that somebody would be awake in that bedroom. No way.
German Shepherds are known to be very docile dogs who doesn't get excited when stuff like this happens.
Especially the one that's already sent people to the emergency room. Very docile. Very docile. Oh, no, that was factual. She definitely sent that lady to the emergency room.
No, that was after. But yeah, she had attacked people before. One would think Beverage would be insulted by having someone lie to her face. Yeah, why isn't she shaking, leaving the room and saying we're having a hearing Tuesday? This have grave concerns for the Commonwealth. Because he's a biased biatch.
So the whole
Couldn't find the body.
So far, Brennan's whole spiel here, what I've picked up is he's telling Bev that she does have the ability to dismiss this. It's not that she should, not that it's gravely justifiable to dismiss it, but she can. And that's pretty much all I'm getting from it so far.
Yeah.
Where the body was. That case is far stronger than many. And in that case, no motive, no intent, and they did not let a third-party culprit defense go forward. Facts suggesting that one side believes a person's telling the truth or not is not facts of third-party culprit. It's just not here in this case. And again, I iterate my position on denying the defense to cross-examine witnesses about these generalizations and these character attacks. I think it will mislead the jury, and it will become a total diversion for the jury, and I don't think the basis is anywhere close. It's feeble.
Did you say it's evil?
First of all, Your Honor, speaking about the federal investigation, when you were not a part of it, and talking about why a federal grand jury was convened, what they were investigating, what they found or didn't found, is complete speculation. It should not be a part of this argument. We don't know. It didn't prove anything. It's not as though they came up with a statement exonerating anyone. So that should not be considered by the court. With regard to the two cases that Mr. Brennan cited, you'll note that in one, he talked about the exclusion of hearsay evidence. There's a different standard when you want to introduce hearsay evidence as part of a third-party culprit defense. There need to be substantial connecting links to the crime itself. The court ruled in that case there weren't. In Finney, there were. And with regard to the other case, that's with regard to hearsay. With regard to the other case, that was the exclusion of past assaults to show that somebody was violent. Again, Hummel v. Conkey is a case where they said, well, that should be, in addition to a normal or a regular third-party culprit defense, you should also be entitled to that evidence. So that's not very instructive. The other two things I just wanted to point out, because I did not mention them, Your Honor, is that Brian Albert also disposed of his phone. We'll never know what was on that. That's further evidence of consciousness of guilt. And then an important point is that the plow driver, Mr. Loughran, went by the house at 3:30 in the morning and saw a Ford Edge parked in the very area where John O'Keefe's body was found. And we know
shout out Turtle Boy.
The Alberts, both Brian Albert and Colin Albert, own a Ford Edge. So that is in the mix as well. Unless the court has any questions, I would approve that.
Hi, thank you very much. Thank you. So let's go on to paper 620, the Commonwealth motion for production of records regarding unsolved productions.
May I?
Yes.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth filed a Rule 17 motion for records from unsolved productions. It has been discussed briefly in court at times during argument. There was a so-called documentary that was aired in a 5-part series.
Why do you have to say so-called documentary? It's a documentary in the standards that in the investigation discovery makes it. I hate that he always have to demean everything. He's an idiot.
Gave a inside, behind-the-scenes look of the defense team and Ms. Reed as it prepared for the last trial. This 5-part docuseries produces a number of statements from the defendant, many of them extraordinarily relevant, some of them from the Commonwealth's perspective extraordinarily incriminating, and many of them inconsistent with statements made publicly in the past, including Dateline 2020 into Gretchen Voss. We served the local service in Boston, a local agent. The record holder is the producer of the series, and they have been notified. If the court allows this motion, I expect they will provide the information to us by the end of the week. I understand there is probably over 200 hours of recorded interviews, and we expect to use a number of those statements at trial. They have statements of the defendant. They're admissible substantively, they're admissible as admissions, and they're admissible to show contradictions with other statements. And so they are material and relevant. I understand the time frame. We haven't had the privilege of seeing them. The defense was there for a part or most of it, but we will use the time we can to sift through it. We're not looking for a continuance or additional time to look at the materials. We'll look at them as we prepare for trial. And so I'm asking you to grant this. It clearly makes the Rule 17 standard material relevant. We don't have access to these before trial. We won't be able to prepare for them if we get them pursuant to a trial subpoena. They've been properly subpoenaed and they are forthcoming with a court order.
There's no one here from Unsolved Productions opposed to this?
There is not.
Thank you. Does defense want to be heard at all?
Your Honor, we're unaware of the communications back and forth between the Commonwealth and the production company, so we've not been privy to that. This is the first we're hearing of any communications that they've had with the production company. I think obviously it.
Oh, look, they failed to turn over more
They should get
discovery.
an opportunity to oppose if they wish. Nothing officially to file one way or the other. So we're not in a position to argue on their behalf for sure.
All right. So, we have two things left to discuss. I want to talk about jury impoundment. We also have a Commonwealth motion regarding Mr. Yanetti's crime. Mr. Yanetti, it's 10 past 12. Which one do you want to go forward on first? Do you want to talk about the impoundment, or do you want this motion?
I'm not handling either of those.
I understand, but do you have a preference with number for motion?
He just said fine with either.
All right, so let's do that motion. Commonwealth's motion to compel communications between the defendant and the attorney. Still looking at the
What were the argument common was?
Why is she mumbling?
Well, it's 10 past 12. She's
Your Honor, so I'm clear. The Commonwealth is not seeking all communications between Ms. Reed and Mr. Yanetti. We're only requesting the communications that may be on any type of records in the possession of the Commonwealth. And specifically, there are phone records which have been redacted, and I do not know what is underneath those redactions. And we believe we have an entitlement to the information in the narrow area where Ms. Reed has waived her attorney-client privilege. Specifically, where the defendant intentionally divulged the content of her communications with Attorney Yanetti about liability and potentially striking John O'Keefe with her car. Those subject areas in that narrow time frame are no longer privileged because they're now public. The Commonwealth has identified a very narrow window, and that's a 3-day period. And that is what is mentioned by Ms. Reed in her public statements, that she spoke to Mr. Yanetti and she thought about it for 3 days. We're not looking for any information beyond what has been waived. We're not looking for any information on collateral issues, and that's why we suggest that the court look at those records in camera, and the court makes the assessment whether or not the area in which where Ms. Reed waived her attorney-client privilege, whether any of those materials would similarly be waived because they are exactly related. This is made in good faith. Anything that is non-privileged is open to the public. It's not confidential. There are 2 communications that Ms. Reed made publicly that we assert waived the attorney-client privilege as it relates to that issue. Ms. Reed had an interview with Gretchen Voss on June 20th, 2023, and the transcript is page 105, line 23. She was asked the question by Ms. Voss, "You never said, did I hit him? I hit him." And the answer by Ms. Reed was, "I said, did I hit him, question mark. And then, when I talked to David, Now, this is later. David said, Karen, if you incapacitated him in any way, there's culpability there. And I thought, all right, maybe this is what, maybe I said to my mother, just to go forward for a second, they were asking me, what was it like? Did they come out? What was the house like? Similarly, in the documentary series, Miss Reed is video and audio taped, and it was presented on television, that she said, and then when I hired David Yannetti, I asked him those questions the night of January 29th, like, David, what if, I don't know, what if I ran his foot over, or what if I clipped him in the knee, and he passed out, or went to care for himself, and he threw up or passed out, and David said, yeah, then you have some element of culpability. So that's how I thought about it for about 3 days. And so that is where I get the time period regarding these relevant statements, admissions by the defendant about her state of mind and her interaction with John O'Keefe in her vehicle. These statements were made during conversations that are obviously no longer protected or private or privileged. They're no longer confidential because they've been intentionally disseminated to the public. And so the defendant has voluntarily waived that privilege as to these communications in this subject area in that time period. And the key, Your Honor, is that it is the defendant herself who made the communications confidential. Even if it was inadvertent or overheard, it would still waive the privilege. This is entirely different. There can be no doubt that there was an intention to pierce that attorney-client privilege for whatever benefit the defense thought it gained them. This was intentional. It wasn't secretive. It wasn't overheard. It was a exacting and purposeful engagement. So we ask you to review the cell phone extraction, any text or emails that may be on those extractions, and relative to that short window, relative to this specific area, anything that is waived that is no longer confidential, we believe we're entitled to. It obviously would be relevant if it's narrowly related to these statements, and we would use that at trial. Thank you.
I am, Your Honor.
Yay, Alessi. Get him, Alessi.
May it please the Court. The Commonwealth concedes throughout its motion, as it must, that the communications it seeks to intrude into are privileged communications between Ms. Reed and her attorney, Mr. Yannetti. 2 of the 3 instances of the communication they cite to are over 9 months old, and that's in 5 months old, respectively. So you have 9 months ago, the Gretchen Voss statements, and 5 months ago, the Vanity Fair statements. But they waited until less than 2 weeks before the start of the trial to bring this momentous and potentially far-reaching and consequential motion. Why? The courts are clear that they take an extraordinarily dim view of parties waiting until moments before trial to raise significant issues like privileged communications this close to trial. The Commonwealth does not explain their delay in raising this issue this close to trial. With regard to the 3rd communication, the HBO Max one, it regards the same event that is discussed in the first 2. There is no addition of an event in the 3rd one. So that 3rd discussion, the docuseries, regards the same events that have been extant in the first 2 that have been extant for 9 months and 5 months. The depth of this attempted intrusion by the Commonwealth should disturb and unsettle every citizen of this Commonwealth because they're either actual or potential clients of lawyers, and it should unsettle every criminal defense attorney in this Commonwealth, and I would dare to say it probably does. As we know, texts, emails, and written communications, exactly what the Commonwealth is seeking here, between an attorney and their client, are canonical examples of privileged material. So what is at stake in this motion? What is at stake is the sacrosanct attorney-client privilege. In Upjohn versus United States, the really bedrock attorney-client case from the U.S. Supreme Court, it established that dating at least from the age of Shakespeare, the attorney-client privilege is the oldest privilege for confidential communications known to the common law, and this Commonwealth has identified that it is one of the most important, and it's been recognized in the Commonwealth as early as 1831. And in the context of criminal circumstances, the privilege has constitutional dimensions as well as it affects the interests of justice analysis that is documented in the Commonwealth v. Goldman case, 395 Mass at 502. And it bears underscoring the basis and the depth of the intrusion is a quote from the very case and the only case that the Commonwealth cites in its motion. It cites one case in its motion for all of its propositions, just one. Matter of a John Doe grand jury investigation, 408 Mass 480. In the case at 485 states, as we have indicated, extraordinarily high value must be placed on the right of every citizen to obtain the thoughtful advice of a fully informed attorney concerning legal matters. A rule that would permit or require an attorney to disclose information given to him or her by a client in confidence, even though such disclosure might be limited to the period after the client's death, would in many instances, we fear, so deter the client from telling all as to seriously impair the attorney's ability to function effectively. We think that the potential is inconsistent with the traditional value our society has assigned, here's a key point, in the interests of justice, and that's the rooting of the interest of justice analysis, to the right to counsel and to an effective attorney-client relationship. Therefore, except where mandated by constitutional considerations, and it cites C. Commonwealth v. Goldman, Super 395 Mass at 502, which are not a factor in this case, nor are they a factor in not a factor in that case, we conclude that the attorney-client privilege should not yield either before or after the client's death to society's interest as legitimate as we recognize that interest in obtaining every man's evidence. So the case the Commonwealth cites supports the protection of the attorney-client privilege. With that law jurisprudential predicate in mind, I now turn to the statements at issue here and their import to that analysis.
You know what, Mr. Leslie, I'm going to stop you. I understand the Commonwealth's argument regarding waiver. I understand that the request is now routine, but I'm not going to give you this information, Mr. Brennan. I don't think it's appropriate for me to ask, so the motion is denied.
Denied.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good.
What the hell happened there? She was sitting there listening to it, and then she just, I don't care. Denied.
Good, right? That was the Commonwealth's motion to
Yeah. It's denied that they won't get access to it, but it's more.
They shouldn't.
No. But mid sentence, she's just, Jesus, the shakes are getting real. Come on, guys.
I'm okay with that interruption. If you want to,
me too. But
Alessi,
she could just have said, "Hey, Alessi, haveth not needeth to speaketh. I denieth, willeth the motionist."
Well, she was trying to save time. I'm okay with that call. She's like, "Listen, you don't have to finish your argument. I understand your point, and you're right.
Yeah,
Brennan's a tool bag, so we don't have to go through this." Next. I'm okay with that.
She should just have denied Breenan.
She should have.
But he should probably not try to argue it again when she just denied it like that, because that was one of those, F you. Does she end it here and go and break?
Talk about impairment. Sometimes you need 5 minutes.
All right, so the court, please.
Is it 5 minutes?
I think that's what I heard.
Yeah.
Hearing is underway. Let's listen in.
Perfect.
So I'll go through, actually I'd like to go through the first page of each. The first page of the defendants, number 13. Do you believe law enforcement officers are generally fair and accurate in their investigations? Who's arguing this for the defense?
I can argue it.
All right, so I don't have a problem with that, but it makes sense that we put it after 8, those series of questions.
No objection to that.
All right, any objection to question number 13 and putting it?
So they're going over the questions for the jury voir dire
I
panel.
don't have any
Questionnaire.
objections to moving it after 9. I think it's a bit one-sided. It leans towards,
Yeah.
or one-sided, but I don't have a strong objection to it.
Well, you can balance it if you want to suggest some language.
But it's a good thing she didn't let him finish. She denied the motion from the Commonwealth. She could have just told Leslie, you don't have to start because I'm not going to allow it anyway.
If there's an invitation to balance, I'll need
But
a
she
moment.
got a little
All right,
thank you,
so
thank
you
you.
can suggest something
Okay.
at some point. All right, so now moving on to the second page. The Commonwealth's number 17 seems appropriate to me, but if you were working for the same document, it's not in the defense when it was removed, I guess. Is there anything about crash reconstruction testimony that would make it difficult for you to be fair and impartial in this case? I don't have a problem with that question. Does the defense?
We didn't have a real objection to it, just wasn't a particularly useful question. We thought at the last trial, everyone said no, so in furtherance of trying to have additional space for more helpful questions, we just decided to exclude it.
All right, I think we'll keep it. There's one I do want to get rid of that caused problems last time, but we'll talk about that. All right, so thank you. So question number 23 on the defense. Does the Commonwealth object to that question? I think it needs to be tweaked at the least. It's a little.
We do.
All right, so what's the objection?
I think the question, the way it's written, invites a juror to potentially not follow the judge's instruction. And so I understand the attempt, the idea of it, the germ of it, but the way it's written, it invites, I think, a jury to, or a juror to usurp what their role is.
And what do you say, Ms. Riddle?
I think if we just tweak the language a bit, I mean, we're happy to hear some proposals from the DA as to sort of the particular issue they have with this question, but I do think the question about the judge's instruction regarding, you're entitled to your own independent individual verdicts.
So they're always told that their verdict must be their own. So there's language in there's probably language in my preliminary instructions, there's language in the charge, certainly. So if it mirrors that language, I don't have a problem with it. Otherwise, I might. So
We can mirror the
talk to each other
the
about
court's
that.
charge.
All right, so,
We would agree to that as well.
okay, thank you. Number 25 in defendants. If you had to vote today on whether Ms. Reed is guilty or not guilty of the crimes charged,
No, we are not doing the trial without jury. This is all the questions they're going to ask the jurors, potential jurors, beforehand, so they have the answers, because they are planning to call 2,000 people for jury selection. So they will get a questionnaire and they will fill it out, and these are the questions they will ask the juror. That's why they're running through this now.
would you vote me? I tell them throughout the trial they're not to speculate, they're not to make up their minds until all the evidence is in. I'm not going to even suggest that this is appropriate. So I'm not going to include that. There are enough questions on reasonable doubt, presumption of innocence, and defendant not testifying. So that's out of it. So the question also, is there any reason why you do or do not want to serve on this jury? I don't think we should invite them to decide whether they want to sit in this jury or not. I think we did give this last time. I don't know what the responses were. Does anybody have any information on that for me?
I think most of them were no. I think 27 kind of hits the same sort of, if
Right,
you have
if
general
that-
concerns about the case, so I don't have a strong objection to
If that's what we're getting at, we've got it in 27. So I'm inclined not to put it on there. Again, I can hear from you beforehand, probably in writing, I don't want to bring it back.
May I alert the court's attention, there's two on the first page that were slightly worded differently in the Commonwealth proposed questionnaire and the defendant's
Oh, okay, which
proposed
numbers?
questionnaire. If the court looks at number 4 on the defendant's questionnaire, we had kind of combined the Commonwealth's proposed questions 4 and 5.
Yeah.
So that's one question.
So that's, and I just got rid of Commonwealth's 5.
Perfect.
So this one's better, so we will use that.
Okay, and then number 7 that was proposed by the defense, that is the same.
I think she was just she was really needing a pee and a smoke because she was just, I know I'm not going to rule. She could just have denied it, but she have to play.
Similar question as number 8 in the Commonwealth's proposed questionnaire.
Yes.
It's just different language.
I thought it was the same.
So we changed it to say we tend to believe or disbelieve law enforcement officers, firefighters, or first responders more than a civilian witness simply because of their occupation, as opposed to automatically believe.
So we typically ask you automatically, what's the Commonwealth's position on this?
I have a strong preference, I'll defer to the court.
All right, so I will think about that, Ms. Henry.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, so the question that I don't like, and you may remember, causes a lot of jurors to say, I have no idea what you're talking about. 21 on the Commonwealth's, 20 on the defense. So you may find a defendant guilty based on circumstantial evidence, but you cannot find a defendant guilty based on speculation, guesswork, or surmise. Is it difficult for you to understand the difference between circumstantial evidence, speculation, guesswork, and surmise?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
It's your number 20. I'm not going to read it again.
Nick Starov, member for 3 months, says, I need goat football. It's soccer. It's soccer, Nick. It's soccer. I appreciate you, though. That's a great 3 months.
It caused a lot of trouble before. I think in every...
You missed that she actually ruled from the bench for once. She cut off Alessi mid-sentence and said, sit down, I need to go out. Mama needs a smoke. Forget it, Brennan, I'm not ruling in your favor.
Every single one, I had to repeat myself with the instruction that I gave in anticipation of this. I gave them a pre-charge on circumstantial evidence and not being able to...
Yes, just the way that it's phrased in the Commonwealth's questionnaire, it makes it seem that the Commonwealth doesn't have to meet their burden of proof.
I think it should be omitted completely.
I have no issue with that. It's just the way that it's
Does the
phrased in the
Commonwealth?
Commonwealth's questionnaire.
It's too confusing in my mind.
Okay, it took up, if you remember, it took up an inordinate amount of time with virtually every single jury. Okay.
We have no problem with that.
All right, so that will be omitted. All right, so that's that. Ms. McLaughlin, I think you said, and I think I cut you off the other day, that the third page was right from Chisholm. I reread Chisholm on 95 pages of it the other day, and I didn't see it. Where does this third page come from? The publicity one.
The questions come from Chisholm that were asked in the juror questionnaire. The other, some of the other cases, questions were part of the juror questionnaire in the prior trial that just moved over to this page. So this page dealt with a questionnaire exclusively of trial publicity.
Okay. All right. I think that we all know many, if not most, and perhaps all, potential jurors have heard about this case. Giving them the opportunity to write the details that they would call down may take an awful lot of time and space that we don't have on this form. And
Can't
frankly,
hear anything
I don't
she's
think
saying.
we have. So
I don't know what the hell she's talking, like mumbling for.
I feel censored. There's nothing wrong with what I typed, which is below. And below this is Chrissy saying, I mean, yeah, do any of these people have jobs? No, I can't see why they should censor that, Brandon. So, but thank you so much for super chat, and I think you should be allowed to write that if anyone have jobs.
I mean, they let Chrissy do it. I don't know why they won't let you do it. No,
but it's again, Jamie doesn't like Brandon, so she she had put certain blocks on his account. Sadly, that's how it is.
Poor Brandon. Poor Brandon.
Brandon is being mistreated, like everyone, by Jamie.
What are your positions on, what's your position on 3?
Here, if I may, I can just hand up the excerpt from the Chisholm case that outlines
And I love you as Nightbot, and it pops up with Money G instead. Brandon has no love on this channel. I love Brandon, but Jamie runs the channel.
All right, I guess we'll see what we can do.
Have to take it up with Jamie.
Directly, same language. Okay, looks like we're giving this third page of the questionnaire. Yes, Mr.
Your Honor, I want to bring to the court's attention something about the court and counsel just discussed question number 7. Could I ask the court to direct its attention to question
which
Sorry,
third page or previous page?
the defendant's questionnaire on the first page? That was the question. I think the court's going to consider whether to use the word automatic or tend to.
Yeah.
I believe that should be broken into 2 questions. It doesn't tell us anything. For instance, the way it's written in the disjunctive, would you tend to believe or disbelieve law enforcement officers, firefighters, first responders, more than civilian witnesses, just simply because of their occupation? If someone says yes, we don't know if that's believe or tend to disbelieve. So I think if we just break it into 2 questions and now we've got the space to do it, that would be more instructive.
Why does it matter if it's an automatic belief?
I'm not worried about the automatic part. It's the believe or disbelieve. That's the part that doesn't help us.
A or B,
Right, so
not
if
a
it's
yes or no.
automatic, simply because of a person's occupation, this juror would automatically either believe or automatically disbelieve. How does it make that person a fair juror? Why do you need it?
Because they want to find out if they have bias. But the question is a twofold question. Do you believe or disbelieve? And if they just say yes, what belief is it? Is it believe or disbelieve? And thank you, Jim Cox, for 12 months.
No matter how they answer, you don't understand their state, right? Like there's no way of telling either they believe or they don't believe. Either way, yes, they do. No, they don't. It doesn't give you any information. It's a silly question. He's right on this.
Brandon, I've told you tons of times, Jamie doesn't like you. See, Jamie isn't even in chat today because Valhalla is here. I don't know why Jamie doesn't like you. I like you.
I have no idea, but she really doesn't like me. It hurts my heart, you guys. It hurts my heart.
The funny thing, every time we have had a show, someone will always text me after, "Who's that Brandon guy?" And I say, "He's a nice fella." Most of these people are Jamie, but
because that tells us it would instruct me, at least it would enlighten me on how to further question that juror. If someone says, "Well, I'd automatically disbelieve police officers," or "I'd automatically believe police officers," those are 2 very different mindsets.
So I understand that. I'll consider it. I think we keep it as 1, and then if they say yes, we fire it.
What if they say no, Bev? You're in the same situation.
Yeah, I don't think she's understanding it.
So
She doesn't. She's an absolute idiot.
Page as well. I think I have the statutory questions that I would ask of the Nairi. If I use the tend language, if the testimony
Thank you, Marissa, for finding that.
tend to believe the testimony of the police officer more than any other witness simply because he or she is a police officer, and then conversely, would you tend to disbelieve the police officer simply because
The state and the defense gets to strike a certain amount of witnesses. This is just to prepare them which witnesses to maybe what they are a little bit more and who to strike.
he or she is a police officer? I typically do that at sidebar in every case, asked exactly like that. So it makes more sense to me that we do it that way rather than a questionnaire.
Cox
But
long.
if you wanted a questionnaire, it was the answers.
Long cock.
That would be the defendant's preference.
Do you care, Mr. Brennan?
per questionnaire.
All right, so I'll think about it, I'll do it one way or the other, and you'll know next week. So one of the things that I was considering doing, so we have a lot of jurors coming in next week. On Tuesday, 218 jurors have been summoned, is my understanding. We will get some portion of that, we will get some fraction of that maybe, just on how it goes with whether people are here and available to testify on that date, to serve as jurors. So say we get like 150 or 175 jurors. I have my remarks to sort of just direct them to what their job is, as you remember, and then I leave when I give them the questionnaires. My guess is for the jurors to fill out this questionnaire, have the questionnaires collected and copied, might take an hour and a half or 2 hours if we have a really large number of people. What I intend to do, at least on Tuesday, is have all the jurors fill out the questionnaire, however long it takes. And depending on how many jurors we have and what time it is, maybe take 50 of the last jurors or so, send them home, and have them come back the next day at 11 o'clock. If we've got fantastic court security here, hopefully we've got a courtroom to keep people in. There are a lot of things we have.
Why start at 11 o'clock? Get their ass out of their house in court by 9 and start. You're trying to seat a jury in the most high-profile case in Massachusetts since Whitey Bulger. And you're starting at 11 C's. You're
Maybe
not a
she's got,
hobbit.
Maybe she's got like traffic court in the morning or something. Let's give her the benefit of the doubt.
Why? We started at 9 during the first trial.
Once we get to the trial, she'll probably start at 9 again. I would assume.
Jake Hanna, I agree with you. They have taken off the gloves. They are fighting now. They tried to play nice with Breenan, found out that he is worse than Lally, and they are now spitting directly in face. Well, then clear her schedule. Jemima, stop making sense. I really hate it when someone uses sense. This is the Canton triangle. No sense is used.
No sense.
To get this done, and I don't want to waste jurors' time. So I would send them home, have them come back the next day at like 11, so that then the next day's jurors
Kind of
at 11 o'clock can spend that hour and a half, 2-hour process, filling out the forms, having them copied, given to counsel, and we can continue on with those jurors. So it's something we can decide on Tuesday when we see how many people are here, how many jurors we get, how many jurors the district court needs. But is that a process that you would be willing to do? Mr. Brennan?
Of course. No objection.
All right, so we'll try and figure out something that way to get things moving that way. All right. The list of witnesses. You both have a list of witnesses. I told you needed to combine them so that I can read that to the jury and a statement of the case to the jury. Do you have that yet?
No. We have not combined them.
All right, so I need you to look at that and a statement of the case to read to the jurors.
I'm live
It's all
on
part of the final trial conference.
Just got a
So I should have had it last week.
notification.
So I need that by Thursday. Is there anything else we need to discuss today?
There's still a few outstanding issues. One is ARPA. And
Where do you
so,
stand with discovery on that?
I received some TUI letters last night. It is not the information I was seeking from my motion that was allowed by the court. And so I have grave concerns about waiting until the day before their testimony to pursue the other discovery that I think I'm entitled to.
What do you say, Mr. Jackson? James Jackson.
Your Honor, I do not know what Mr. Brennan is referring to with regard to what he's looking for and grave concerns. The hyperbole is unnecessary.
So there was a motion allowed, so that should
Outstanding.
There was a motion for the discovery allowed a while back.
It
So that
was.
should narrow, right?
Pardon me?
That should narrow things.
It does, and we have not, I attempted to confer this morning with Mr. Brennan, and my recommendation to the court would be for us to confer further, because I just don't understand what he thinks is out there, but we haven't conferred fully either.
Okay, all right, so do that, we can address this next week. I think we're going to have plenty of time to sort of tie up loose ends during the impoundment process, because I think it's going to take a very long time to get a jury.
Understood. And I expect we'll file a response to a proposed expert who received a report last night, and I didn't receive it until later, which I want to have a chance to respond to.
And Your Honor, if I could, please, one more item when it's appropriate for Your Honor.
That's okay, go ahead.
Thank you. We did receive the, Your Honor may recall the argument over Dr. Welcher in Your Honor's direction, request, and then the assent of the Commonwealth that they would redo what they had provided, that 140-slide presentation. We did receive that, but we received a lot of other material in addition to that, huge megabytes. I haven't even been able to open it up. It takes so long to open it up. I respectfully request that we, Your Honor, grant us please 2 more days than what we had to take a look at that, because it's just taken an extraordinary amount of time.
Makes sense, Mr. Brennan?
I can be clear, there's no new information. What Mr. Welcher did is that all the information he based each of his opinions on was in the gigabytes we provided to the defense, but he wanted to make it as seamless as possible, so to effectively hold their hand through it, he put each site under each slide so they can find it in the file folders exactly where it is. So it's instructive and helpful, but it's not new.
Your Honor, if I may, I don't disagree with Mr. Brennan's characterization. However, it is still 140 slides or so. I was expecting a rather substantial narrowing, so what we have to do is we have to go, and unfortunately, I think Your Honor is going to hear similar points that we made, but it's going to take more time, because I had the expectation, maybe unreasonably so, that it would be a narrowed slide presentation, so I'd appreciate the 2 extra days.
All right, so when does that put us at? What was the time frame you mentioned?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I don't have the specific date handy right now.
The time frame as far as the response?
Yes.
Well, we were supposed to exchange discovery yesterday. And so I had that presentation sent over last night. They sent over the 2 letters, and I received the third dog experts report.
If I could, Your Honor, I maybe Attorney Brennan misunderstood the question. He is correct that he provided us with the presentation last night, but the question, I believe, Your Honor, was when was our time, because Your Honor had given us time to respond, and I apologize, I don't have that date, but what I'm just asking for is 2 more days beyond it. But
I don't think I gave it to you.
yeah. Okay.
So you were 2 days to respond to that?
I have 2 days from today.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
I will sue the ever-loving poop out of everyone who hasn't hit the like button and then cover myself in Prosecco-flavored Legos. Thank you, MLS, for reminding people to hit the lickety-like button. And if you're feeling frisky, go over and subscribe to Valhalla.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy who shows goats. And it's not a euphemism.
So there are a few matters outstanding. I will have the decision on the motion to dismiss, I should by the end of the day, buffer zone, probably by the end of the day. And I'll get everything else done as quickly as possible. All right. Anything else?
The only other thing is the logistical issue as it pertains to both the voir dire process as well as during the trial. I wanted to ask the court if there was a mechanism by which Ms. Reed could have at counsel table some sort of an earpiece or headphones or something that's slaved to a microphone up at the bench at sidebar so that she can listen in on both. It's very. I want to avoid that if possible. It's clunky. Especially during the voir dire process. I think it would be uncomfortable, and quite frankly, I think it would be a little inappropriate to have jurors with Ms. Reed standing right there with them and with us.
It's done all the time.
It makes sense all the time. But
it may be something you're choosing not to do, but she has every right to be there at sidebar. So you say you don't want that, you want some accommodation. I don't know if we can do it. I'll think about it.
We could. Well, one of the things that we were talking about is potentially a closed circuit wireless microphone up at the bench and a set of headphones here that she can listen in on.
Put it all in writing. I
Okay.
would like to have had it before today. We're going to be moving around courtrooms. It may not be able to happen.
Okay.
All right, so the alternative is she can come to sidebar for any sidebar discussion and panelment, whatever. It's her absolute right. If she chooses not to do so, I'm going to need you to tell me that.
I'll put something in writing, and perhaps I've got the plan in the back of my head. I'll put it in writing. And
We have a lot of different equipment that we need to make sure has priority. It's in the
Understood.
courthouse, so I'm not very hopeful that we can accomplish this in the next few days.
Okay. Well, thank you for entertaining.
All right. One thing, when we get the juror questionnaires, there's some.
That's Paul O'Keefe. That's John O'Keefe's brother.
And he's there to intimidate her. And Lisbeth asks, what is a TUI letter? Well, a TUI request is where they ask for all official information in a case, witnesses, documents, and stuff like that. So it's just a letter asking, giving all the information about potential evidence. We had it from the FBI that turned over 3,600 pages. So it's named after a Supreme Court case. That's why it's called a TUI. It's kind of like a Brady violation. Could just be called didn't disclose evidence, but it's Brady because it's US v. Brady. I believe it's US v. Brady.
Probably.
I'm not quite sure that's the jury request.
Supplemental juror questionnaires.
I'm gonna
that
get
we
so
talked
many
about.
DMs
I need
against me.
You both know what my decision is here, other than the 10-2 versus automatic.
Thank you. Maryland v. Brady.
Let's go with 10-2. And I can either do that at sidebar or in the floor.
Yeah.
What I'd like you to consider, and lawyers have done this in other cases that I've had, is if there are answers that are clearly what you believe would both sides agree jurors excused for cause. In an effort to be able to go through this vast amount of jurors that the jury commissioner's office is kind enough to summons in for us, if things stand out to you, it would be ideal if you could agree that jurors number 8, 12, and 16, both sides agree should be excused for cause based on the supplemental questionnaires. It would be very helpful if we could do that. And maybe keep a running sheet that would be a joint proposal to excuse these jurors for cause. It may happen when you look through the questionnaires on folks that we sent home to have them come back the next day to just call 5 people. The court officers call them and tell them not to come in based on their questionnaires. So please think about that. It makes sense to me. It was very helpful when lawyers were able to get along well enough to do that. And okay.
Last time with Bev's schedule of half days, quarter days, early days, long weekends, it took 2 weeks and they went through, I believe, 600 potential jurors. They have 2,000 lined up this time. I think the girls are talking something about making a guessing game about it. My bet is 2 weeks real time, 3 weeks Bev time. I don't know when he interrupted you. If it's like Brian Higgins, that was 13 seconds ago, so you didn't miss that much.
That we tried, that we had changed venues on because of the pre-trial blistering also. All right, anything else?
No, thank you.
I didn't say it would be. You're always misconstruing. I just said I don't understand how we're going to do it. These ladies, do you know how I'm trying to run this channel and to be a friend? I got known as a friendly guy on the internet. My Discord constantly is like this. You're an idiot. You claim everything. I'm blaming Jamie. Jamie we had a seminar I couldn't attend, sadly, because it was female only. And since then, the pressure has been on.
She might be starting a coup. She might be a hostile takeover of your channel. It might be happening.
I'm thinking it's Marissa, Jemima, Sue, Danny T, all of these people.
We gotta start standing up, Baker. We gotta start standing up against these women around here. Crazy.
I'm not feisty. I'm hurt.
There was a motion for reconsideration that was filed with regard to the metadata underlying. I can.
You can make an objection. Go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure that the court saw that motion and that it was filed. I don't know if the court wants to hear a oral argument. I'm happy to do that, but we just wanted to make sure that that gets decided.
Okay. All right. There's still a few outstanding.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else?
Nothing, Mr. Chair.
All right. We'll see you on Tuesday.
Court, all rise, please.
See ya on Tuesday, she says.
1:10 p.m. So 2 hours of work for Bevy today.
It was a long day for her.
Who is the captain of the ship? Is there one, or is the rudder just outsourced to Tennessee? No, the rudder is stuck in Wisconsin with Jamie. I just show up. I'm told I just have to be here and start talking.
The Ohio State Buckeyes. This case is so crazy. Was it just me, Baker, or did both the Commonwealth and Bev seem kind of deflated? They didn't have their usual gusto to them.
The first argument he made, he seemed he seemed a little subdued. Can we say that?
Subdued's a good word.
I'm just gonna read one of my big inspirations. Grant Smith Ellis, Doink the Clown himself. Here's the moment then Karen Reed's lawyer, David Yannetti, confirmed that the federal probe into John O'Keefe's death is closed during today's final pre-trial conference. Yannetti, by speaking of the probe in past tense, shows what we all known for weeks. It's over. And then True Crime Karen, who is possibly, and I know this is a big word, possibly stupider than I am, says, Yannetti admits federal investigation and over. Do you believe it now? Free Karen Reed has question mark Karen Reed trial. It doesn't matter because that has no influence on this case. It's the justice for John O'Keefe will never happen because we don't have anyone looking at the murderers. This case is about Karen Reed. I don't get why the Smurf are so hung up on the federal investigation. I've said this for 2 years now. She's not going to be saved by the feds. Anyone who sold you that bill of goods, you should just maybe unsubscribe. The feds are not going to save Karen. Her great defense team and the facts is what's going to save Karen Reed. The feds have given them what they have. They gave them the ARCA guys who proves she didn't hit John O'Keefe. It doesn't matter that Doink the Clown thinks that, well, as long as there's not a federal probe into it anymore, it means they didn't find anything. Again, there's federal crimes and there is state crimes, and there's that little thing where you also have the feds opening cases that they closed before. Again, it doesn't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Do up, do up, do up, do up, do up, do up, way.
I don't understand what he's trying to. Go ahead.
Donations open and accepted. I'm just happy that he has such a kind heart that you can donate to him. I'm a grifter. I'll take anything, but you do not need to send a donation to ask a question. So if anyone is watching over at Grant Smith Ellis, Doink the Clown, Slow and Friends, par excellence, you don't have to send a donation to ask a question. It's not like in this channel or Valhalla's channel where we only answer questions for $100 super chats and up.
That's it. Only. Better be a pink boy minimum.
So far, the only side who has invested in the federal case has been the Commonwealth. Yeah, and too many people out there started talking about, well, the feds are going to end this case. No, they're not. It's not going to happen. It's a state case. This reminds me of my. Oh, I should pre-read this.
Yeah, it's got a naughty
no,
one.
I should have read.
It's got a naughty one.
I always do. He starts out so nice, and you think, "Oh, Brandon has reformed."
No, never.
No.
Never.
That's yeah. Krusty of the Golf assured me that the feds are coming. Yeah, I've heard that. I saw someone claiming that Proctor was fired in November, and him getting fired now in March is proof that they were right in November. Valhalla, the sun's going to set.
I believe you.
You should, because I'm always right. And then you should believe me when I say my book is a bestseller.
It will be. I have full faith, sir.
What the hell is this?
I don't know. I'm not sure what you're looking at.
It's something Marissa found. That the wording in it is just weird.
Did Grant Smith Ellis write
this
it?
New setup. Oh, let me get yours on first.
Yeah. Every time Brennan does that stupid face, this is exactly what I picture in my mind. Peter Pettigrew from the Harry Potter movies. When he squinches up his nose and shows his teeth, this is what I see every single time.
And then I have to take this. I hate this new setup.
Why'd you get a new setup?
In StreamYard, that we have to.
Oh, with the you don't have to do it. You can still do it the old way.
Yeah, but it's there now. I want it gone. Defendant's motion in limine to prohibit the Norfolk District County District Attorney and Massachusetts State Police from having juror contact. This entire motion is based on a false premise. No one other than trial court security coordinators, jury security, coordinates jury security. No one other than the court officers has any contact with jurors during trial. To be clear, the Norfolk County DA's office, state police, and defense counsel and the media will have no contact with the trial jurors. Canoni. Added Judge McDermott. It's just, why is she saying this is based on a false premise that no one other than that? And wasn't the motion to exclude them from having contact with witnesses? Because we know that Lally was talking to someone at lunch.
The witness.
Oh, look who's here now.
Yeah.
stream is about to end, and then she shows up like a queen. Dee-da. I'm just coming in.
I see you, Jamie. I see you.
I thought Grant was running a charity for the mentally and physically disabled, aka retardos. Yeah, that charity is, Grant is late in French, so every cent goes to himself. That weed isn't going to buy itself. I'm just thinking, why him driving around on camera, smoking weed in Massachusetts, which I believe isn't legal. Why doesn't any police officer talks to him about that when he's sitting there smoking a roach in the car?
Well, because he's voicing what they want him to voice. He's on their side, Baker. They're not going to get him in trouble.
Oh, it's kind of like perjury. It's only perjury. Oh, Jim McDermott is Jim, her clerk dude. Thank you. I can't. There's so many. Marissa is so nice. She put together an overhead of the people involved in this case. So because I'm trying to get to do some lead-in streams. What is this case about? While we're waiting for jury selection. She sent me a picture of who's connected to who. And I woke up half an hour later on the floor with brain matter seeping out my ears because it just hurt my brain looking at the picture. There's so much ancestral relationships in this case that not in the Alabama way, but more the non-literal way.
Oh, it's been pretty impressive, actually. Oh shit, that's the wrong one.
The way he smells, it shouldn't be the good one because people say he smells like cheap weed. I think there should be a CCTV on the lockers the jury notes are kept in. They still can't get in there and do anything, so I don't know. It's a trap, Mel.
I didn't do it. Oh shit.
Yeah, but it's not legal to drive under the influence of weed, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, most of the time, even if it's legal, they don't want you driving while, during, immediately after.
Brandon is having a hard day today.
That is a rough day. 86% is a lot, man.
Especially when you're compared to Jamie.
Yeesh.
All dots connect to McAlbert's. Yeah, that's the problem. Sadly, we have it in, we have like a thread where, we're talking about this chain of conscience where we just, this. And now it's 45,000 leagues long, so now I can't find all the stuff that I was supposed. I made a sub group, so. But it's just, come on, it's almost there. I can feel it. It's close. I'm back to Sunday. Keep talking.
Yeah, okay, Jamie. You're not mean. Right.
Yeah, Plevin is not a grifter. More lies.
and Grant Smith Ellis is normal.
You could just have said Grant Smith Ellis is intelligent.
There you go.
What? I can't find it now. I think it's around this place. And she's probably sending it to me now and yelling that I don't find it. Why didn't you download it? Because I'm kind of stupid too. Well, I can't find it now, but it was a lot. That's why Grant pulls over in Wendy's porch.
Look at Moni G's Jamie Nightbot. Moni G is 1% as mean as Jamie.
This is how everyone should be.
That's an impressive number.
Oh, you want a timeline for the night in question? I worked 3.5 hours on that yesterday. by going in, trying to find everyone. I probably just could have gone to Sleazy Goosey's and stolen hers. But I tried to put it into one document to prepare for this thing, so we can share a document and write in it. It's right now. It's really easy to go through. We start at 9:49, where Karen texts John, "You really hurt me this time," after an argument this morning. And then we just go, this is where we ended. At 7:57, Higgins and Brian Albert talk. And then we have the things that we need to get in there. But all of a sudden, I get very tired when I look at all of this. That's 3 pages just of O'Keefe's phone location confirms arrival at 34 Fairview at 12:24, 12:27 to 12:45. Jen McCabe texted O'Keefe 5 times, telling him to pull behind her, claiming she saw Reed's SUV move 3 times. 12:30, Allison McCabe arrives home. Reed's car went in reverse at 24 miles per hour per alley. 10:30 to 1 a.m., Brian Higgins leaves 34 Fairview, moves his vehicle at Canton PD, then drives home. Oh, I should add. Seen on phone at the CPD.
Check out Private Chat real quick.
Yeah, I know. That's just your footnotes. It's the same as is in the. It's just because we're working on it. But this is the timeline that I'm having to digest. But luckily, I have great mods that I make fun of, and they will only rebel slightly. The Twitter guy is really set on you being a grifter. This Twitter guy. Which Twitter guy? A lot of Twitter guys is. I had someone come in today talking about I'm using Turtle Boy words. I can't tell you the last Turtle Boy stream I've seen, because Turtle Boy streams at 3 a.m. my time. I'll go in and then I'll pop around in it the next morning, but I don't sit down and see a 4-hour Turtle Boy stream when I wake up in the morning, because normally I'm doing some working on my merch. New merch released today with the Canton triangle. Check out my spring store. See, that's how you do it.
That boy.
Today I spent 3 hours writing on a fictionary book that I'll never ever gonna publish, just to get the first chapter done. And I'm stupid. Can you pull up your grifter shirt for a screenshot? I'm not gonna be topless on screen, Marissa. Nice try.
I don't think she meant pull it up. I think she meant pull it up. Grifter.
Your internet is slowing down again.
Minus?
Yeah, it's starting to lag. Timeline, microdots. Yeah, but I'm kind of slow, so I started making all the hard work instead of just stealing it. The second meanest person in the world is 2% as mean as Jamie. I thought you were going to redo openings so we can see how bad they were. I'm actually thinking Valhalla, do you want to say?
Yeah. So Baker invited me to do it yesterday, and I was going to. No, I wasn't. I lied there. Yesterday, Mrs. Valhalla had the morning at home, and I haven't seen her much often, so I had to deny the request from Baker, and we didn't do it because I wanted to see Mrs. Valhalla. So be mad about it if you want. My fault. I'm okay with it. He wanted to do it yesterday. I didn't. That's basically how it went. We might still get into it, though. We've got till April 1st before the trial starts, and it looks like we're only going to do, 2.5, 3 hours of jury selection a day? It's going to take so long. It's going to take so long. So I'm sure we will still get into the openings and perhaps closings at some point.
Yeah, and jury selections won't be covered. It's It's just, it's just going to be, what if any do you know? And they're going to ask 2,000 people. So we will find something else to do. We actually found a case that looks kind of interesting with a wife who might have lit her boyfriend, husband on fire. But we will do a day where we will look at least openings from both sides and maybe critique them a little bit with the knowledge we have now, because I know at least Lally's view of the case changed heavily, but I can't remember exactly what he said during his opening. But I know he changed his timeline twice through the stream.
He changed his whole theory like 3 different times throughout the course of the case.
Yeah, timeline and how he was struck. He changed during the closing arguments alone.
Yeah. Ridiculous. They have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this is what happened to Karen, but they don't even know what, or to John. They don't even know. He's changing his. Oh, this case makes me so mad, you guys.
Is Commonwealth going to ask who, if anyone, was driving the ambulance? Probably not this time, but a girl can only hope. There's a new OnlyFans on Aliver.
Shocking.
If it's a good case, I saw that some reporter. Oh, the guy who's been haunting me is followed by Grant Smith Ellis, so doesn't surprise me. Some reporter got off doing, was it Super Bowl or something, by a streetwalker. So yeah, there's a lot of that going around. Guys, girls, if you're gonna pick up something, make sure they don't give you El Droga contamination. Oh, Marissa seems to, and she was always telling me, "Don't go on Twitter. You get angry every time on Twitter." I don't get angry. I'm just telling them to get back under their rock.
It's amazing.
You
how
have
Twitter
bad
works.
roommate just starting as well. No, the bad roommate is like a week old. Recovery Addict has covered that. Oh, put it in the Discord so I can give it a look. I have to fail some days. I thought getting off was the entire point. Am I doing it that wrong too? Well, there's getting off, and then there is David Carradine getting off.
Ooh, dark.
Too soon.
Dark. Dark.
Can you possibly looking at covering the Donald Day Jr. case, American anti-law enforcement, doomsday prepper connected to my state's first ever? If it's televised, and the next 2 months is going to be Karen Reed. That's
Yes. Starting April, this is going to get wild.
This case won't end before I'm back from the U.S. I don't think so. So, yeah.
Don't say that. You think it's going to take more than 2 months?
Yeah.
Oh,
last time was 8 weeks, and they are calling more witnesses. This time, the defense won't only settle with 3 days. They're going to take at least a week of trial dates. And then you're going to have deliberations after. Last time, that was how long? 3 days, 4 days?
Yeah, something like that.
So if we start on my expected start date, because you're going to seat the jury, that's at least the first 2 weeks of April. Then you hit Easter.
And it's going to take at least 2 days off for Easter, at least.
I would think possibly April 22nd is when we start.
Awesome. Oh my God, can you imagine if this ends in another mistrial?
To be honest, do you think they will see the jury before declaring a mistrial? They can't declare mistrial before the case has started, can they?
I mean, I guess they could, but she would have to acknowledge like all the Brady violations and, you know, craziness. I do take it back. I didn't even mean to put that out there. I apologize. That was an evil I did not mean to push into the world. I also like how Bev was like, yeah, I'll rule on the motion to dismiss tomorrow night. I'll also rule on this other thing that whatever by tomorrow, and then the rest of it I'll get to you later. Meaning she's not gonna dismiss.
We have months to go.
Yeah, months. She's already decided she's not going to dismiss. She just hasn't written it down.
Yeah, if they can't see the jury, well, they will see the jury. There's 2,000 people. Isn't Karen waiting to hear back from the federal court? She is, because they filed a motion Friday to have, because it got denied the first time around, and then they filed an appeal on Friday. So
the habeas petition?
I believe it's the habeas, yes, or the bump up to the federal. I don't think there's any way this doesn't end in a mistrial other than guilty. She ain't getting the not guilty. No, I think that's the big problem, because they have that stupid OUI, and people will say, we can't find her guilty of the murder, because there's no proof of that, but she must be guilty of the OUI. But I don't think they'll ever. I can't see a way a jury can swing for murder too.
Well, even the Commonwealth's case isn't representing that she committed murder too. Like, even the Commonwealth is basically like it was an accident, but they're not charging her like it was an accident.
Yeah, but I don't know. The problem is always we never know about juries, but we know the motion to dismiss isn't going to be held. So again, have to fight. You gotta fight for your right. That's a Sheryl Crow song. Horrible song. But the dance part of it is pretty good. If you're British or European, you probably know that song and that lady. If not, you're thinking, okay? There's going to be some real winners on the jury. Imagine if they got Doink the Clown on the jury.
Ugh.
Yeah, the murder was an upcharge because she didn't take the plea. Trying to force her to take the plea, and then they would have scaled it back and said, well, you can take a plea for manslaughter. And then she could have eaten that, but she had two big kahunas, and that's when they lost everything. They made a dum-dum. And my good buddy over on the Twitch thread, who really, I never seen him before, Milenko, I don't know. This is a pretty good example of how, despite never having seen a stream of yours, I was able to see a word you used in a tweet and two of your stream collaboration promotions, and I know exactly what to expect from the people you influence. Keep grifting, I guess.
What a moron.
Again,
people don't understand humor anymore. People,
it's like when that guy came in and said, you sound like an idiot, and does the fat chick ever talk? And Jamie just lost it, because do you know how much?
How dare you? I am not a fat chick. Ugh.
No, that was back in the day. It was before I had you on as often. And but again, that's what I'm telling people who are coming in and saying, well, it's just wind. If you don't give them any power, the words doesn't matter.
Rage has a great idea, actually. You should post your link to the merch store on that post.
Is
That's
it grifting
amazing.
if you know you're being grifted? Well, I don't know. I'm not Plevin levels of grifter yet. Do you think Carney will be removed from prosecution witnesses? No, not as long as they can keep him on. Still no order on the request for a stay that is with the First Circuit Court of Appeals just checked. I think the state had till the 22nd to reply to that, so that's going to take some time. I hope the defense spends more time explaining reasonable doubt to the jury. Breenan and Bev won't. Yes, I think the last time they also got a little bit tired of 8 weeks of what if any snow was at the high tops when the band played It's Raining Men questions, because we all did. At the end, we were all just sitting here thinking, what the heck is going on with this idiot? The tragedy when the feeling's gone and you can't go on, it's tragedy. Is someone quoting the Sheryl Crow song? No, not Sheryl. Yeah, Sheryl Crow. I think that's her name. I can't remember. You should look her up. She's quite. She has her butt tattooed with a big rose.
I'm a pretty big Sheryl Crow fan, actually.
Not Sheryl Crow. The Sheryl Cole. I don't
know who that is.
She's British.
Oh, I just got a Brandy Churchwell raid. Thank you. Actually, while you're here, Brandy, congratulations. Heard you got something going on over there. Little congratulations, doll. I'm very happy for you. I'm very happy for you.
Valhalla didn't want to say congratulations to you until you told him in person in Tennessee this June. And you can bring your hubby too.
Yeah.
Well, but future hubby.
Future hubby. When are you getting married? Are you going to get married before June?
Oh,
that'd be interesting. Maybe it will be your hubby by June. Maybe they're flying to Vegas Friday.
Do you think she's going to elope?
She might.
Could you imagine that, having going to Vegas and just saying F it all, and then she comes back on stream and says, hey guys,
married.
There would be a caravan of Brandy Churchwell supporters riding down to Florida, punching her for not announcing she was getting married.
Why the violence, Baker? Why the violence?
Because they want to celebrate with her.
Well, that's fair. I don't know if that's see, I'm not sure if that's something that viewers have the right to, right? Like the wedding, that's the ceremony, all that stuff. Yes, I appreciate the congratulations. There's a plan. See, she's dipping out on Friday, y'all. She's dipping out on Friday. She's coming back Monday, married possibly
she's not 16 on spring break. Come on now.
I'm telling you. She's going to come back Monday.
25-year-olds don't make the same mistakes you do when you're 16.
She's coming back on Monday, married and possibly pregnant. I'm calling it now.
Brandon, going. Yeah, she's gonna make sure that they get married in Tennessee. I just looked up a place that because apparently Valhalla and the expert is going out looking for places to do the meetup. So I found this place just for the memes alone. Maybe they should get married at this place.
The Backdoor Tavern. Giggity, giggity, goo.
Do you think, will Brandy be the one dressed as Elvis on Friday, or will she be Priscilla?
Could go either way. I hope she dresses up like the Colonel. Personally,
I could see both of them. She could be cool with.
They're both dressed up like Elvis.
Yeah. Oh, Brandy, you need to have us on as wedding planners.
I'll be your ring bearer. I'll tie it to my dreads. We just like a dog, the dog collars. Just tie it to the dread in there. It'd be good.
Brandy is getting married this Friday in Vegas at the little chapel, allegedly. She's gonna hate us even more now.
I love you, Brandy. I miss you. Oh, soon, dear. Soon.
Yeah, this is how rumors get because we are starting rumors.
That's what we're doing here. We're starting rumors intentionally.
Just wait till everyone is done streaming tonight, and you are pregnant with twins, and I don't know what else. What else?
I'm gonna
the
set her
Smurfs
up.
is going to come at you saying you're pregnant now.
I'm going to set her up a baby shower registry at online for Amazon. You can send all these gifts to Brandy in honor of her brand new baby that's coming in 9 months.
CrimeCon. Yeah, that's in Oklahoma this year, I think.
I have no idea. It was in Tennessee last year, wasn't it? Or no, it was not. I don't know where it was. I'm lying.
Yeah.
I don't know where it was. But I am
Everyone's 25
pretty
in Miami.
sure about this Vegas thing we're talking about. I don't know where Crime Lab tab whatever was last year, but pretty sure there's a wedding this weekend. World's first crime con. Hey, Jamie, you're spreading false information right now. Jesus Christ.
Well, yeah, plane tickets to Vegas. Brandy, you're cutting it kind of close here.
It was in Nashville. See, I thought I knew that. It's in Denver this year.
Yeah, that's what I said. Oklahoma.
That's not Denver's in Colorado.
It's the same place. I've had this discussion many a time with Danny G.
I don't think it's the same place.
I have to.
Does Oklahoma have mountains?
If I have to fly out Thursday and can go home Friday, it's so much traveling.
You booking your plane?
Go home Sunday.
Denver, Oklahoma.
No, to Vegas this weekend. Meeting up for the wedding.
Oh, you're booking your flight to Brandy's wedding this weekend?
Yeah, just
Nice.
to see how much how much I'm gonna grift.
The last minute phone or plane ticket might get a little pricey. It might.
It's 4,000 more than I'm gonna pay to go to Knoxville.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's pricey. Well,
it's $400 to go to CrimeCon. Oh, that's expensive.
that is expensive.
You can come for free to
Dollywood.
No, you can't come to Dollywood for free, but you can come for free
you gotta
for
pay
the
for
Friday Night Live show we are having
There
the
you
day
go.
after, where you can meet us at an undisclosed location that still no one has determined yet, and I don't know why this jumped on my screen. I just want it for the memes. They don't have any place you can do it, but the dog's a cutie, and Backdoor Tavern, the fun place. I'm just saying. Oh, it could be a cool place to hang out.
It might be.
Yes, I will have a listing on first row seats for Brandy's wedding. You can buy for only $3,500 on my website. No plane tickets, and there won't be. There will be one drink served for the $3,500.
Also, no guaranteed entry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Disclaimer. Fine print. Well, now you're a mod, Brandy, so that'll never happen again on my channel. Fixed it. Bad Zach.
Audio is going to suck. Just back FNL. No. The expert learned from last year's mistakes. He's going to have wired internet. He's going to have great audio. Everything will be in place month before we start going there. It's not going to be like it's in an hour. It's going to be perfect.
Hold on, Brandy. I'm going to make you a managing moderator so you can actually time Zach out.
Baker's Knoxville GrifterCon.
There you go.
Don't be late. Yeah.
There you go.
And like all true grifters, we give you free entry. You have to pay a little bit of money to leave.
And Zach immediately got timed out. Outstanding. That's what I'm talking about. Go, Brandy.
Yeah. No, there hasn't been any LawTube weddings. The only LawTube related things are potential criminal has his fiance. I don't think they've been married yet.
I don't think so. She's still future Mrs. Martin 2.0.
Yeah, and then you have DUI guy and Chandler. I think those are the only two love connections that sprung from LawTube so far, and of course, me and Zach's strange homoerotic relationship.
Justin and Libby got together from chat. So I think that counts. That's where they met, was in chat in like Ricardo's or something. Also Valkyrie Begins is in chat and she says, I'll be there and I'll be in a pretty dress. So everybody better come to FNL.
That's she's a lady you don't say no to.
I never do.
That's the other way around. Constantly saying no to you. Look, she's as begging as you. Oh, can I get a wrench?
Perfect. I got you, girl. I got you. I've got redirect set up, y'all, to go over to the goat stream. We're going to get that up and running as soon as we end here. 24-hour baby goat. It's amazing. We love it.
Oh, well, that wasn't really YouTube related, but probably not the best indicator of that got into a whole heck of a mess. But it seems like people were just waiting for some excuse to get into a fight.
Didn't have nothing to do with me. I got nothing on the situation.
I didn't stream at that time, so it wasn't mine. So,
no.
But today's a lot of arguing over the third-party culprit. She didn't rule on it. He misused case law as always. We still need a ruling on Michael Easter. He's the FBI guy who they want in to testify that it was a shoddy investigation. We heard that the reasons that they pointed, and I've seen the motion has been filed now about the third-party culprit, but Breenan was a violent drunk who punched other cops, and he was liquored up at the house. So was Brian Higgins, and Brian Higgins had shown interest in Karen earlier that night, and John was in the house at the same time that Brian was looking at photos. So no one could tell where they were. Then they had that thing where why didn't Brian come out in the morning? Why did Higgins go back to the police station? Why did they get rid of Chloe right after she was mentioned in a court by the defense team? Brian Higgins kept contacting John to get him to the house. They talked about the videos we saw at the waterfall. They both lied about their phone calls. Both of them got rid of their phones. Then we have Colin, who lied about prior fights, and Breenan can't prove that the photos with clean knuckles is at around that time because, again, there's no metadata. And the Bowden defense ties into the third party. He claimed you can only have a Bowden or a third party, but they tie together because a Bowden defense is also, well, it was a shitty investigation. That's why they never found the third party culprits because they never looked for them.
Investigation. It was a shitty investigation because he had to run to the store to get red Solo cups in a shopping bag. That's good. That's good.
And again, he keeps going back to case law and not mention what case law is, and unless he trunks him and says that's not what it is. And there's no evidence that John was ever in the house, and the investigation and the evidence is great. And then they also brought up the Ford Edge and that Colin owned a Ford Edge.
And Brian Alberts. Both
and Brian Alberts, yeah. And then they had the production of records from her interview. They said, "What do we want? Why do they want it now?" They've had that for a long time.
Months. The oldest one was 9 months ago, and they're just now filing to get the information from it. Come on, 9 months and 5 months.
Case law: you cannot buy a case of beer before noon on Sundays.
You can here.
I can't buy it after sundown in Tennessee.
Well, you can't buy beer at all in Tennessee because you're foreign. And
but he said we don't have an opinion as such on this because it's between the production company, which is in California, that have really strict laws against getting into it. So, and by the way, he never turned over this evidence to the defense, so they don't know about any communications. Bev didn't fly into a rage and yell, "There's problems." Then we had the communications. That when Alessi says, "These are the same statements you had from the Voss interview at 7 months old. Why are you trying to get it a week before court starts?" And he was cut off by Bev, and we were like, "What the fuck?" And she said, "Yeah, denied." Then there was Breenan brought up the ARCA guy saying he didn't get what he was promised.
Yeah,
and
I did find that a little weird because Alessi was like, "I don't understand what he's looking for." Like,
we need to talk to each other to figure out what it is that you are missing, because again, we turned over everything we thought he asked for. And then we had an expert report from Dr. Welcher.
Love you, Brandy. Congratulations again.
Yeah. Congratulations, Brandy. And all the best to you and the future, Mr. Brandy. And we hope that you'll still hang out with us cool dudes sometime.
Wait, does that mean he'll be the 14th juror then?
Oh. He will.
I like this.
Change his YouTube name instantly to the 14th juror.
I would. That's what I would
do. Dr. Rocher, they were ordered to go back and redo the report, the 144 pages of report that he made the first time, because it was just a whole heap of crap where he couldn't talk about most of it. He said, "Oh, he's not going to talk about it." They then got 140 pages instead of 144 pages. 140 pages now with all the footnotes. So Alessi said, "We just couldn't open it. So I need some more time to look at it."
Yeah, he said it was like a gig of information.
Multiple gigs.
Jesus Christ.
It's 144 PDF pages of some kind of demonstration, plus all the notes for them. It's going to be a whole ton of megabytes. And today we should have a ruling on the motion to dismiss, which she will deny. I think he said megabytes. He said megabytes and megabytes. Didn't he say gigabytes of data? I'm pretty sure.
I definitely heard gigabyte in there at some point. Brandy says, "Only because I removed Zach's super chat so I can time him out before I go. And trust me, it's okay. You can time out Zach every time. Every time." Zach did try to send out an SOS in Morse code in a super chat, and Brandy deleted it. And I appreciate Brandy deleting Zach. Always. Always. Oh, also, Chrissy Bacon became a member of the Goat Herders, which is awesome. I appreciate that. You get awesome emojis like Fluffy here. Thank you, Chrissy. Welcome.
And thank you so much, Brandy. Can't do one without the other. Giggity. Giggity. You are an engaged woman, and you... Giggity. You make us blush.
I like where this is going. Giggity, giggity,
Yeah. We should be nicer to Brandy. She's such a sweetheart.
She's
We're dragging her down to our level.
Oh, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that.
Well, it seems weird that he shouldn't be able to open it if it's just megabytes.
I'm pretty sure. I'll just have to go back and look. Zach's been a member for 14 months. Help! Hark! Mayday! You brought this on yourself. I feel no pity for you, sir. None.
Oh, shit. And that's how you end up with a high body count. Yeah, why do one when you can do two? Oh, maybe it's us making people hate us by the things we say.
It could be. It could be. Who knows?
I don't think so. Brandy is a trooper. She knows we don't mean it. That we have nothing but love for her and happy wishes for the future.
Love in your heart. I'm hungry, Baker.
It's 7:00, so am I. Everyone, we'll try to figure out what to do tomorrow. I'm pretty sure Valhalla won't be up early, but if nothing else pops up, I will do the opening if it's okay with Valhalla tomorrow and go through it. Jamie will be here if he's not, so...
yeah, as long as I'm not here, Jamie will be here to entertain y'all.
And Sinbad, been here for 9 months. Love this community. Cookies and goats. Life is good. It is. Thank you for 9 months. And one sausage for the rest of your life. Congrats. I think that was Brandy.
I've had the one sausage my whole life.
Wow.
See what I did? See what I did there? That was good, right?
Yeah, you lied.
I'm taking it.
Open screen. We know how those deployments sometimes went down. They got
in
lonely.
The fake Navy. In the fake Navy.
In the fake Navy. You can get a lot of success in the fake Navy. Baker doesn't grift, only hustles. Thank you, Chantis Inferno. I do both. Thank you very much. By the way, new merch in my store today with the Canton triangle.
No justice, no science, no something else. Sense. Nope. There you go.
So if you want to support me, and I put as always, put my earnings at a minimum because I'm bad grifter. So they are a little cheaper than they recommended. It's so crazy what they recommend. I still want to have someone who can make it be cheaper. It's still too expensive. What happens in the bunker stays in the bunker. That's more of a Brandon thing, playing golf.
That's awesome. Look at that. Sinbad 33, been a member for 8 months. Love you guys. Cookies and goats. I dig that. I like that. Goats and cookies.
That must line up with Sinbad came around when we started doing the panel shows the first time.
Yeah, maybe.
That's around that time. Yeah.
And then Dinah Do 420. Been a member for 8 months. That's awesome. I love trolling Zach for once. Love you all. And Val shows up late, throws it. What's it say? Throws on the goats.
Throws on the goats, hits the bong, then eats the rest of their grass. He smokes the grass. You still want a t-shirt? I actually ordered 2 or 3 different types of t-shirts, so I can tell you which one I can recommend. And maybe I have one that I can give up. We'll see. Everyone, be back tomorrow for something. And please, if you are, you all rule. Oh, it's on your channel, but still.
Thank you, Dinah Do. You all rule. We try. And then Do It Tiger, been a member for 1 month. I'm 1 whole month. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And it's the first of many. The first of many.
The first one is the...
One is the loneliest number that you ever did see.
What?
What? What are you doing?
I don't know what music you're listening to, but
It's a good song. It's not Swedish.
no. They have I saw the sign and it opened up my eyes and I am happy now. I love you. Oh.
Is Ace of Base Swedish?
Yeah.
You sure?
Who else would call it Ace of Base and have no bass in their songs?
Only a Swede. Only a Swede.
Only a Swede. So if you are like the Swedish seeing the sign, come back tomorrow or go over to Valhalla and look at some goats.
Heck yeah.
You all. I saw the
What
sign.
exhibit are you referring to?
I'm going to make this 100, Your Honor.
All right.
100.
100.
Because it is 100%
100%.
correct.
Checking your other.
So you literally built a cannon?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
All right, I'm in love.
Go back. Please do that again. Oh, that was the cutest thing I've ever seen.
While I'm waiting for this, did you, whether it's true or not, believe that Mr. Randolph had slept with your wife?
I wouldn't have cared.
You wouldn't have cared?
No.
Did you believe he had slept with your wife?
No.
Did you believe he slept with your mother-in-law?
Probably did. Everybody has.